This is the D6 generation with your hosts, Craig Gallant.
Wrong! If you're getting any compensation, it's not charity!
Russ Wakelin. You put me on a boat with frickin' dragons attacking me and whatnot? Now we're talking. And Rafe, Hollywood Granger.
Now that's Jimmy Django right there.
With contributions from Total Fangirl.
Vampires do not sparkle.
And our loyal listeners.
Drago, we made you out of steel.
Welcome to another edition of Rapid Fire, the roundtable discussion of all things gaming, coming at you with the speed of a tidal wave of technically advanced armored killing machines over your western border. Today's episode is brought to you by a fourth question. Question: what is the best game con in Cork, Ireland? Answer: WarpCon 20, of course. The biggest and best for all your gaming needs. You have to go play at WarpCon. Details at warpcon.com. Today, our panelists are, as always, Rafe, the Big Red One Granger, and Russ, I gotta be me, a German Wakelin.
Nice.
Let's begin. Issue number 1. Beginning with the German and Russian invasion of Poland in 1939, World War II eventually saw the mobilization of millions and millions of military personnel around the world and cost over 100 million human lives. Divorced from the purely human cost of the conflict, however, was a war that saw action in almost every type of terrain on Earth, with almost every possible combination of technologies, ideologies, and strategies. Was the most diverse single conflict in history. Question: what was the most interesting terrain over which major conflict occurred during World War II? Is the mountain high, Russ?
Swamps.
Can't play it safe, Rafe?
Ice flows.
Interesting, and odd that neither of you mentioned the massive battle for Luna City, where General O'Kelly Davis defeated the Lunar Authority. Never mind. What? Issue number 2. The term speculation is very clearly defined as a hypothesis that has been formed by conjecturing, usually with little hard evidence. The last thing a person looking for hard and fast facts on a subject wants to stumble upon is an endless round of speculation by people who do not know what they're talking about. For instance, looking on a forum for a particular game that hasn't been released yet, and constantly befuddled by pages of idle maunderings by people who have never seen a rulebook. Question: if aluminum pies by the side of the atom can only turn in increments of soda, speculate on how many attacks do they get if they only use their candy canes. Rowdy Rafe?
32.76.
Rambunctious Russ?
42.
Wrong! Apple banana skate print while stapling the Crowley. Helpful, wasn't it?
What the?
Issue number 3. One of the areas most often debated by wargamers in general and historical wargamers in particular is the value of the balanced, straight-up fight versus the more historically accurate misalignment of forces and abilities found in real battles. Although you can't swing a dead cat at a game convention without hitting one of these conversation groups, no one has yet come up with a universally accepted response. Question: how many times would you want to be the French at Dien Bien Phu before you went off looking for a more evenly matched game somewhere else? Russ the Never Read?
I would just look at the table and walk away.
Rafe's No Level Head?
0.
Unbelievable! Russ admittedly would never play a French anything, and Rafe, you'd gladly beat your head against a wall for any game for hundreds of years as long as there's some wooden components.
Or pie.
I name one of you a liar.
That's true.
Issue number 4. The concept of rhyming refers to words having corresponding sounds, especially terminal sounds. In layman's term, this means the words end with the same sound. For instance, lame and tame, or car and far. Words that aren't rhyming: crave and carve, fertile and gurgle, or cat and banana. When making poetry, you must attempt to rhyme whenever you can and only resort to slant rhyming as a last resort. Rather than questions for this last issue, here are 2 examples. Rafiki is often random. He's also got quite a fandom. Those fans often wait for segments come late, perhaps a timed memorandum? There once was a big man named Russ. Over games, he always would fuss. Never a sleeper, a great groundskeeper, best organized, or hear him cuss.
Nice.
Thanks for listening, and good night.
It's raining again.
We will pass through the American patrols, past their sonar nets, and lay off their largest city, and listen to their D6 generation while we play our Russian board games.
Dice are our voice.
Hello.
Hello.
and welcome to episode 45 of the D6 generation.
I love that number 45. 15 times 3. 45 is just a great number.
I'm Russ Wakeland.
I'm Craig Alon.
And I'm Rafe Hollywood Granger.
Jimmy Django HD, whatever.
No, Jimmy Django's my saying. If you want to call me that, that's up to you.
I don't even know anymore.
Okay.
I'm so
Anyway,
confused.
so what are we doing today's show,
Craig loves
Ross?
Jimmy Django.
Today we're going to talk about, Flames of War.
Flame burning.
We are totally in World War II mode
fire.
today.
World War II all the way.
Totally.
Meet them on the beaches.
Gotta-
We will meet them on the...
Got a big interview today, right, Rafe?
We do. We have Joe Krone from Battlefront Miniatures. A nice interview with him, and then we're looking forward to a good section, a good review on Flames of War.
And yet another one of our big, giant miniature war game reviews. So
Right.
It's been a long time in the making.
yeah.
Yes, so
Yes, it has.
So we're very excited about that. People have been asking about Flames of War for a long time. So we're
Episode
excited to
2,
get that.
I believe.
Yeah, and it's going to be a two-parter. Part this episode, part next episode.
Part
so,
deux.
Part deux. So
Part deux.
want to make sure we do it proper justice.
Yep.
Before we get into all that, we need to thank our sponsors.
We
Who
should
should
do
we
that.
thank first? Rafe.
We should thank Dan from Myriad Games.
We should
Who
thank
really
everybody
supports
at
the
Myriad Games because they're all
The
doing
whole
a great
team.
job.
They're
for us.
phenomenal over there at Myriad Games.
Yeah, they really are. They've already gift wrapped half my presents.
There you go.
I know. They do free gift wrapping, too.
That's right.
What
They
gaming
do.
store does free gift wrapping? I ask you.
You know,
Really.
and amongst all those other things, they're supporting the D6 generation on behalf of friendly professional gaming stores everywhere.
That's right. So be sure you go out there to your friendly professional gaming store and get those gift wraps for your friends.
That's right, because that's how you can tell a friendly professional gaming store. The gift wrapping is key.
Right.
It's the nice silver kind, too.
And we also have to thank Battlefoam.com.
Battlefoam.com. We got a couple things from Battlefoam that I keep forgetting to bring.
We did. What did we get?
Oh, what's that?
We actually have 2 sets of the Space Hulk foam inserts to give away.
You mean for Russ and Rafe?
Well, if you had Space Hulk,
don't own that.
might be a possibility.
You've already
but
got yours.
I
so
do
these
have
two are to be
mine.
given away to lucky listeners.
That's right.
In a future episode. So we're going to give away some Space Hulk foam.
Yeah. So let us know if you're interested in that, because if you're not, maybe we'll just give it to somebody else.
Romeo and the folks at Battlefoam make custom cut foam as well as amazing army cases
Yep.
for
They'll
any kind of miniature
protect
war game.
anything you own, so you don't have to.
Yeah, and they're even protecting board games now.
You could
so
put
hey,
your cat in there.
I don't know how breathable it is though.
Well, I would.
The case
I
is
don't,
a
I, don't,
breathable
I don't particularly care for cats, so that's not really a
All right.
concern.
A concern for Craig.
Yeah. So also we should thank Lone Wolf Development, makers of Army Builder, a great piece of software for building your Flames of War list.
Absolutely.
Actually, I would say indispensable.
Indispensable if you
Yeah,
haven't played in a
indispensable.
while.
And it's great because
Card Vault.
it lists all the stats of your stuff when you
Yep.
print it out.
Oh,
So it's really handy for getting all your stats out.
Yep.
Card Vault, another great program for collectible stuff.
Hero
Card
Lab.
games, and then Hero Lab for your role-playing games. Lone Wolf Development.
All of those programs will add exponentially to your gaming experience.
Wolflayer.com. And also, of course,
PaintedFigs.com.
our people, friends at Painted Figs, Navin, and all the crew over there.
Official painting service of the D6 generation.
As a
And-
matter of fact, did I tell you guys this?
What's that?
Santa Claus has arranged for Grind to make it to Navin
You're
and
kidding.
his team.
Wow.
It up
Ooh.
to be delivered back here to be under the tree.
Wow, that
Nice.
was that last I heard that wasn't gonna be possible. That's
Wow.
somebody's
Not Santa's sleigh may get a little bit slowed
yeah,
down.
Somebody's
We
pulling
don't
some
know, but-
strings somewhere.
We're keeping our
We'll see.
fingers crossed.
Very nice.
And of course, who else should we thank, Rafe?
We should thank John Pryor of Doghouse Systems and have an update for you. Check their website. If, I don't know, your significant other or you're treating yourself to a Christmas gift, check their website for when their cutoff date is to make Christmas shipping.
Oh, yeah, it's soon.
And
Yeah.
speaking of Christmas shipping, use D6G and you'll get free United States shipping.
Right.
That goes for any of their systems.
You bet.
Right. And we want to thank all of our shout-out auction winners.
Thank you guys
Folks who took
for
some time to bid on our
constantly
auctions.
being a part of our show.
How do you bid on the auctions, Craig?
Well, you can go to eBay, or what can you go to now?
You go to
You can
eBay.
go to
eBay.
ebay.the d6generation.com.
There you go.
That's Jimmy Django right there.
That is Jimmy Django. And just you'll see all of our different auctions, and basically you're going to put a bid of what you think it's worth to have your message read out loud on the show. And you become a little bit part of the D6 generation history.
Forever, because the shows never go off the air.
No, they're
you
always
are permanently
there.
part.
That's the good thing about advertising on a podcast,
Right.
folks. It's
You are
always out there.
Permanently part of
New
the show.
people, as you all know, are finding us every day.
Right.
So your
And
little
you can
message.
always rewind it to your significant other when you get married.
That's very true.
Right.
Your message is heard over and over again for years to come,
That's right.
or months at least.
Now, if you don't want to deal with shout outs and you don't want to, you don't have anything to sponsor with,
Yeah.
but you want to help out the show a little bit in some way,
Donate button.
you can use the donate button. How does that work, Rafe?
You click it, and then you donate to Rafe specifically $1,000.
Sadly, no. It goes to the show. And also, if you click on the link there on the right-hand side of the page, it'll tell you about the matching, the contributions you'll get from Dan in terms of Myriad money at Myriad Games if you donate to the show. And also, you can also check out our merchandise at shop.thd6generation.com.
Get a little bling for your
Ka-ching.
ka-ching.
Right.
Ross's that was so cool when he came up with it. It's just passe to him now.
Yeah, exactly.
So yesterday's news.
How about if people want to call us?
They can call us on our voicemail number. What's that, Rafe?
339-368-6051.
And we'll randomly insert voicemail into some episode in the future.
That's right.
We never know what voicemail is going to show up.
My other favorite way is do your iPod recorder. Send it to info@the d6generation.com.
Yeah, no, he does that. Now, one other thing, since people like to give to us, we like to give back to you,
That's very true.
our listeners. And the way we do that is with contests,
Constant contests.
usually with products generously donated. The FCC has to make me say this. Generously donated by some of our proud game manufacturers out there.
Yeah.
We just gave away, in fact, we're about to give away Black Library contest winner round number 3.
Round
Number 3, right?
That's 9 books we've given away once we do this.
Now, how this works is the Black Library contest is a little different. The Black Library from Games Workshop sent us a big old case of books,
Big old case.
and we are giving away 3 to a lucky winner about every other week.
That's
and how
right.
it works is you got to watch our Twitter feed or Facebook, and I'll give a hint
Yep.
as to where to look on our website.
For example,
What was the example this week?
the example this week would be, how would you contact us? How would you contact us?
Now, it was funny. Some people actually emailed how they would literally contact us.
I will contact you by carrier pigeon.
Which, while humorous, was not actually the goal. Because if you went to the website and found the Contact Us section,
You would find the quote,
a phrase. What was the phrase, Craig?
"While my gods may sleep and my ships lie at anchor, my foes know full well that the big guns never tire." Is that really Euron Blackheart? Because I thought that was some Imperial Guard commander.
I don't know, but it's a great line.
It is a great line.
In any case, that was the one we used. And so what happens now is if you see that and figure it out, you email us. Now, one thing we want to point out is we are changing the official D6G
Yes.
contest email.
Yes.
Now, a couple episodes ago, we gave away Space Hulk. Craig suspected there were some shenanigans going on, and I suspected we just had a growing listener base. And I think now we've determined that we do indeed have a growing listener base.
Oh, we do.
Because now for any contest we do, no matter what it is, lots and lots of you submit.
And our,
Oh, man,
old,
we have tons.
and our old listener base is getting more active.
Right, which is great. We love it. Don't get me wrong. So what we want to do, though, is because if you email contest entries to info@the d6generation.com,
It starts to flood.
It clutters us up, and we can't quickly respond to actual questions from folks. So what
Yeah.
we're going to do is we've got a new email address now coming out called contest@the d6generation.com.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
if you're submitting anything related to a contest, a Black Library entry, a limerick, whatever, send it to contest@the d6generation.com
Yeah.
and put in the subject the name of the contest. So if it's BL contest or limerick contest or whatever,
Yeah.
put that in there. And then we'll get that, and we'll look them that way. And we'll keep those separate from, I have a quick question about what you mentioned in the last episode. That
Yeah.
goes to info@the
Right.
d6generation.
Okay, so again, contest@the d6generation.com. Remember, contest@the d6generation.com.
That word again is contest
At the d6generation.com.
We're going to
You know
have a
what I'm
jingle
wondering?
that Rafe's going to sing next episode. Yes, Rafe?
What's that email again?
Contest at the
kidding.
d6generation.
So,
So,
Ross, I got a question for your contest here.
yeah. mhm.
So they get the tweeter feed. Is there a specific time or no?
No, it's random.
Random.
Okay.
But see-
and I
right.
saw tons. I mean, I saw, I don't know, 50 entries.
Yeah, a lot.
So
They
that
flooded
now what do you do?
instantly.
Well, only the first 6 entries
yeah,
get 6 correct entries.
that's
Okay.
correct.
If you were fast on the draw and said, I would email you to contact you, you did not count. But if you included the phrase in your email, then you were in the first 6 people, you show up in our little list here. And so we have a list of the first 6 folks to email us correctly the phrase. And here they are. Number 1 was Justin Lance. Number 2 was Triple Diamonds, a.k.a. Chris Pennycook. Number 3 was Mark Dieter. Number 4 was Marco Dumbos. Number 5 was Alan Stucker. And number 6 was Derek Fain, a.k.a. Moogs. Okay, so Craig's going to roll the D6 right now.
Okay, ready?
Craig, roll that bone.
Here we go.
A 5. Craig never rolls high.
I never roll high.
Alan Stucker, you are the winner this week of the books. So send us an
3
email
Black Library books
with your address if you haven't already, and we will then send them out to you, Alan. So good job.
Nice.
Good job. Good job.
Now, we also have another contest that just wrapped up on November 30th.
It did, yes.
The Chaos in the Old World Limerick Contest.
Yep.
We got lots.
We got lots of limericks.
I would say a metric ton.
I would say a metric ton, and at least half of them were limericks.
So we have to digest these limericks, and we had a busy week with Thanksgiving and everything. So we're going to actually announce the winner. We're not taking any more, so stop emailing us limericks. But what we're going to do is we're going to review them carefully, give them the attention they deserve, and in episode 46, next episode, we will read our favorites and announce the winner there.
You bet.
I have a contest thing I got to say, too.
Isn't there some kind of diorama thing you're doing?
Yes, I have actually already received 2 of them. They look awesome, by the way. And actually, one of the contest entries had a good idea. Since I said that the diorama could be sent in postmarked by a certain date, because I wanted anybody, from New Zealand to be able to mail it in. But do me a favor. Email me if it's on its way, because if it's not, I can judge with what I've gotten already. But I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to have it come if it's coming on a slow shipping schedule.
All right.
So if you haven't emailed me already and you made a diorama, please email me to let me know it's on the way.
The ones I've seen are phenomenal.
Yeah. Oh, I've only seen one.
Amazing.
Actually, I've seen 2, and they're both really beautiful. One is really
astounding.
Yeah, Ian, a different Ian than we game with made one, and Nils made one, which I have to show you, Craig and Russ.
Oh, cool! I can't wait.
So I can't wait to see those. Good job on that stuff. And we'll take a break from we'll do another Black. We'll take a break from new contests right now because of the holidays.
Yeah,
and we'll be back shortly with some more contest stuff, including some of that Space Hulk foam.
You
in
bet.
The near future.
Yeah, and we've got a couple other things still piling up.
Oh, yeah, we got more stuff to give away. Don't worry. Don't you worry none about that.
We know
more stuff to come.
The dark little hole where we hide our loot is still full.
But enough about that. It's time now for
Achievements in Gaming.
All right. Oh, the achievement was still on the draw there. All right, there it is.
No achievement.
Right. It was taking a nap. Too much tryptophan.
Oh, there you go. I heard that was a myth.
I did too, actually.
Yeah,
I like seeing Mythbusters on that. I like to see Jamie and Adam just eat tons of turkey
until they collapse.
That would be a good episode.
That would be hilarious. All right. So who is Achievements in Gaming brought to us by this week, Rafe?
Okay, I can't wait to read it, but I got to ask Craig a quick question. Craig, can you do the voice of Hulk Hogan or no?
I could try.
All right, because I can do Randy Macho Man Savage. So here I go. We know, shout out brought to us, we know we must surely be Europe's premier gaming guild to have so many detractors. To them, this message in the words of, sorry guys, Randy the Macho Man Savage. What are you gonna do when 100 tons of tiddlywinks comes raining down on you? To last week's Hollywood Minute sponsor, we loved your skit. We laughed and laughed. We loved to send you a reply, but you were too shy to leave your name.
Yeah, I think the Hulk Hogan thing was just that actual thing in quotes, but that's okay. You got into it. It's good. It's good. You got all excited.
Hulk Hogan's basically the same. You just got to throw in brother a few times.
That's very
What
true.
you going to do, brother?
Yeah.
Couldn't do Hulk Hogan.
That's true. There you go. What you going to do, brother, when 100 tons of tiddlywinks come raining down
Just got to throw
on you?
brother in a few times because they asked for Hulk Hogan, not Randy
That's
Macho
okay.
Man
They got
Savage.
them both, though. That's beautiful.
Right. Macho Man, he's got to do a few more snap into the sim. Snap into it.
Snap into it.
All right. Great shout
My
out.
voice is so hoarse I can't go on.
We'll give an achievement for that shout out. That was
That's
phenomenal.
beautiful. We like to see that conflict.
We like a good excitement.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what games we've played since the last show. Last show we had a very
you go
weedy
first.
achievements in gaming. Well, what have I been playing? I played a Euro game.
You did.
But Ray said, I can't believe you're playing a Euro game. But I like Euro games. And one of the things about Endeavor, which I played,
Yep.
Endeavor has slavery, cannons,
Oh, good.
and ships.
Oh, nice.
So in combat and men with shields.
Okay,
so
well, there you go.
And it's not a Euro game if it has
Oh,
combat. Sorry.
That's not
totally-
true. There's lots of Euro
totally
games
Euro.
with combat. It's just
But-
your Euro games that don't
But
have
it's
combat.
a really nice deep. Well, okay, hardcore Euro gamers will say it's not deep enough, but I like it. It's a nice area control game, kind of like a la Small World, but a lot more depth than Small World has. I really enjoyed it, had a great time with it, and I would love to play it again. It was a fun game. So Endeavor, take a look at it. Components are very nice artwork, good game. So I played Endeavor. I played Grind again.
Yes, you did. How'd that go
with
for
Andy.
you?
Andy's quite the thinker.
Yes,
But
he is.
but had a great time with it, and Andy actually beat me very handily by 2 points, which is a lot in Grind. So that was my Grind adventures. And then we played some Uncharted Seas again.
Lots of it.
I played quite a few games of it.
I actually played it.
I played with Andy. We played, the three of us played together.
There you go.
We were getting excited about Firestorm Armada, and we wanted to try Uncharted Seas out. And again, I have the new rules. We put all the new stats. I still love the game. It's great, and it's
is
still
a great game.
Very solid. So I had fun with that again. And also, I played a brand new expansion for the game Tomb. Now, we've never done a review of Tomb, and we really should. It's a good game. But Tomb Cryptmaster just came out, which is an interesting expansion for Tomb. It's a standalone game, or you can mix the components with Tomb to give it more variety.
Yeah. What do you recommend?
Well, here's the difference. The basic Tomb has some player interaction, but there's not a lot. There's a little bit of screw your neighbor components to it, but it's not much. Cryptmaster is totally screw your neighbor components. To the point where this game could make enemies. Like, it's that good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, I think I totally got Joel, who plays normally with us, a little frustrated with some of the nastiness I was doing to him. A lot more elements.
So I'll avoid that game then.
Oh,
yeah, me too.
Yes, Cryptmaster's much. So Tomb, if you don't like that element of it, then the original Tomb is better. But if you thought there should be more player interaction and more like diplomacy and kind of things in Tomb Cryptmaster definitely brings that to a next level.
When Russ says diplomacy, he means lying to your friends.
Well, isn't the game Diplomacy called that all about lying to your friends? Come on.
Yeah, that's why I don't play that.
That's what diplomacy is.
Russ enjoys lying.
Diplomacy is lying to your friends. Let's be clear.
No, diplomacy is telling somebody to go to hell in a way that makes them look forward to the trip.
You're like that guy on Survivor who's like, "Can you believe he lied to me?"
No,
yes, you're in a game. You're in a game.
No, I'm the guy that throws sand at that guy.
All right. So. I don't know,
funny.
What have you been playing, Ranger, Rafe, Hollywood, HD, Jimmy, Django?
There, good. You got it all in. Well, I did. Don and I completed our campaign part 2, our Flames of War campaign, Battle for St. Lithany, I think it's called. I had my co-general Brian Ahern with me. Brian was much better spirits, and it was a blast. It was really fun. We took a break from Flames of War for a little while, and then we just came back and let the Germans roll right over me.
Again. Well, that's that
which was,
element.
Historical in nature.
Right.
Now,
well, that's that.
Interesting.
That's the problem.
I never, ever have played Battle Lore. So Andy came over for his first and solo jaunt of the Breakfast Gaming Club on the Thanksgiving holiday weekend.
Yeah. How'd you like Battle Lore?
I only thought it was okay. I guess the way I heard you guys raving on about it, I thought it would be really awesome.
Well, which scenario did you play?
I'm sure I played an introductory, game. I liked it and all. I guess I thought from the way you guys talk about it that it's better tactically than Memoir 44. So we played Memoir 44 next because I've only played Lou and I wanted to play an adult. Mm. I still liked Memoir 44 better, to be honest.
Well, which scenario did you play in Battle Lore? Do you remember?
I don't know. It was the French versus somebody, and I had
well, there
wizard.
You go, right there.
So you probably played the first scenario that introduces you to the concept of lore cards. You only had a wizard.
I think Andy said something was like 4 or 5 scenarios.
Yeah, it's too bad. Yeah, it's too bad. You really want to go if you know Memoir. Here's a tip for everybody who's trying Battle Lore out. If you know Memoir and you know Command and Colors, skip right to one of the more advanced scenarios where you build your own council. It's almost because that really shows the abilities of Battle Lore.
Okay.
Prior to that, it's like playing the first introductory scenario of Memoir. There's not much meat there.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I was very happy, and I've seen on Board Game Geek and people really like Memoir 44. I kind of thought, I don't know, it's kind of beer and pretzel-y. I don't understand what the big draw is for this. But when I played against Andy, an adult tactical mind, it was very fun. It was a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, Memoir with the expansions is a good game.
Yeah, this wasn't even the expansion. This was a basic game. It was a later scenario, but a basic game. And then, guess what, Craig? I went back to WoW.
Yeah, Wings of War.
I didn't get to trick you.
I am the greatest pie maker
the
world has ever.
Oh, he tricked you.
Achievement for that?
It's not World of Warcraft.
I thought you were going to give me a negative achievement.
It's Wings of War. Oh, you want a negative?
Give me a negative. There
you
you
should
go.
get a negative.
Yeah, what are you talking about? All right, so there we go. So Wings of War, which which is a great game.
Beautiful
we reviewed
game.
it on the show.
Yep.
It's quite
I
beautiful.
played the World War I version, and Rob and I
Excellent.
played that with the actual little model planes.
It's the only way to play. It's better with the models.
Yeah, much better.
That was so awesome.
Yeah.
And those are the games I played.
Yeah,
Nice.
very nice. I played Uncharted Seas a couple times. Joel, our friend Joel, did a little Saturday game day where he just told everybody to
Well, how did Joel like it?
that he didn't play it.
Oh,
The funny thing was, Joel had a game day, and I showed up. And to be totally honest, I'm completely off board games right now.
oh yeah.
I have no interest.
It's
in
funny
board
because our friend
games.
Ian has no interest in miniature games.
I
Right now.
know.
It's like totally
I
over
know.
the other side. of the
I
room.
think we totally reversed positions. I can't, and which is going to be interesting because we're going up to Andy and Cherie's on Saturday to play board games. So we'll see how that goes.
It'll be apples to apples
but-
and light stuff. You'll be
No,
fine.
no. Are you kidding with those two? They're trying to get Karen to play Descent. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Wow.
I want
Yeah.
a recording of that.
Yeah. So so Joel had this big thing, and I showed up, and I was like, "Hey, anybody want to play Uncharted Seas?" So they all played board games, and we played Uncharted Seas. Jeremy played, and Andy played,
Nice.
and somebody else played. And we had a blast. And then on Tuesday, we played Uncharted Seas again. Not so good. Worst showing ever for the Craigster.
Oh dear.
Remember?
I do remember that. Yes. See, it turns out when you're sailing boats,
Yeah, you don't want to ram your own ships.
you don't want to come about and then ram into your capital ship. And what's cool is the elf ships have these little outriggers.
Yeah, that's really
And you don't
bad.
want to wedge the point of your battleship between the outriggers of the cruisers.
Yeah, no, that's
Not good.
Yeah, I think Russ has some new toy, some technical toy that he's got that makes me stupid.
Yeah,
That's my-
yeah,
that's
you
my
were
theory.
on those things even worse than me.
Not
It's
good seamanship.
crazy.
And Rafe, that was your first time playing really seriously in Uncharted Seas, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I'd
What'd
say
you think?
tactically,
You
sure.
played the
I had a
dwarves. What'd you
blast.
think of it? You
I
had
played
fun?
the dwarves, and even though they were slow, I still had a fun time trying to outsmart you guys.
Well, you sunk a lot of my boats, I'll tell you that.
Yes, yeah, it was brutal.
Not as many as Craig Silka's own guys, but
Yeah,
you know.
that's very true. And with Jeremy's been making lots of those paper buildings for the all things zombie.
There are pictures on the Twitter feed. Check the Twitter
They
feed
are
out.
beautiful. Those
What was that game? What was that game like?
I don't know.
So it's not as good as Gutshot.
No. Well, in my opinion, no.
No, that's what I'm asking. Your opinion.
It's a lot of it is counterintuitive. That thing that Russ hates, where some of the die rolls have to be high and some of them have to be low, and it does. And there's no real method to the madness. It
I
has
hate
that
that.
going for it.
It builds up in your head and you're suddenly
and-
confused.
Yeah, and it has sometimes you've got your target number is all you're looking for is a 4+, but then sometimes it's a lot like Gutshot, but there's only your model only has one stat. It's your rep. But sometimes you're trying to roll 1d6 and you're trying to get your rep. Sometimes you're rolling your rep's worth of dice and you're trying to get 4+. It was confusing.
Here's my tip to game designers.
Yeah.
Right? Come up with a cool, simple mechanic
Mm-hmm.
and then consistently use it throughout your game as much as you possibly can.
Absolutely.
They do a great job in that War Machine.
Yeah.
They do a great job with Malifaux, with the card fighting thing. Even though it's so complicated, it's simple. And they do an awesome job with it in this game called Firestorm Armada.
Yes.
But finish up your
And
zombie
Flames of
thing
War.
first.
But anyway, so
But it sounds like zombies didn't do that.
But it was neat, and it was. I mean, there were some really cool moments. The game's got everything built into it you could possibly do. So, Jeremy says that the scenario he came up with was fairly complicated, and that might have been why things bogged down. There were like two teams. There's one group of survivors versus one group of gang members versus all the zombies. It's got some really neat stuff in it too, how it generates zombies and things like that. But one group hot-wired a pickup truck.
That's cool.
And then rammed it into a zombie into a building. And then the pickup truck was actually. It's based on noise is how you're generating the zombies. So, of course, the pickup truck is creating a lot of noise, so the zombies are homing in on that. So they tried to jump out of the pickup truck to send it sailing down the street, but they flubbed all their rolls. So the guy hit a big highway stanchion and knocked himself out.
Well,
and
that
then the
sounds
zombies,
all pretty fun.
No, it's
Sounds cinematic. That's
it's
cool.
very cinematic, and it was very fun reminiscing about it.
Yeah.
But the mechanics that brought you
Getting
to that
through the
were
mechanics felt like a
very
grind.
chunky.
Yeah.
I think,
okay.
and a lot of that was a learning game, and I'm going to give it another shot. Jeremy loves it, and Jeremy's been really good about playing my games, and being good about that. So I'll give it another shot. But it
He's
did
got
not.
great terrain. He just needs to find the rules.
He's got the beautiful
I
terrain.
mean, it's like with cowboy games. We went through a couple before we found Gutshot.
Yeah.
So, you know.
So, but I did enjoy it. So one for me, and one for Jeremy for all that terrain.
Train is awesome. Oh my goodness.
And we're not going to talk a lot about it, but Jeremy and I, using all the stuff we found online before we got the rule books, did cobble together a little Firestorm Armada game. And
how'd you do that without the rule book?
Well, you remember the cards, the ship cards from our Uncharted Seas have almost all of the stuff you need, and so basically we did that. And there, Spartan Games put out teasers all for the last few weeks.
Almost enough to play. I think you're missing some key elements.
Yeah, we were missing torpedoes and point defense and things like that. But the rule book was already out in the UK, so people had already started talking about the rules, and they printed out as a PDF their cheat sheet, the rules cheat sheet. So a lot of the rules summaries were available. So we played a quick game, and we got some of the stuff right, and we got some of the stuff wrong, but it was fun, and it was interesting, and I really loved getting some of my terrain back out there again from Babylon 5.
But last night we got the book.
We did get the book, yeah.
We got the book,
but
and
that
the
is
models.
under other.
Yes.
So,
I want to talk about that too.
Modeling. Rafe, what you been doing?
Okay. Believe it or not, hold on to your shirts.
Yeah.
I actually primed and painted a full platoon of my United States infantry.
How many models is that?
Yay!
Not stands, but models.
Oh, models is 4 times 9 is 36, 37, 38, 39, 51.
Wow, that's a lot of models. But how many stands is that?
Stands is 12.
Okay, cool.
That's nice. So
Yeah,
but
it was really fun, and I did the, I did the same level of detail. The belt straps have brown. The machine gun tips have silver. It was a lot of fun.
I have to admit, you guys got me excited to try to finish painting my Germans up just for the painting part. I do like painting those guys.
Oh, I love looking at.
I love the model. I love they come out. I love painting the transports and the tanks. They just look great.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Yeah, they do.
Great
Look, facing Don's Germans have been so fun.
Yeah.
Excellent. And another thing.
Oh, another thing is I heard this podcast. There's like these 3 guys, and I asked their advice about getting the Assault on Blackreach box, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to take a splurge. I'm going to paint Space Marines and Orcs. Oh, wait, no, that's John again from Game On.
Is that your new? Is this your new thing? You're just stealing from them,
giving them their part.
Okay.
Yeah, I stole.
Well, John,
that
you got a spot in Achievements of Gaming again.
There you go. Look at that. Cheap at half the price.
For considering buying Assault on Blackreach.
There you go. I not only considered, but actually bought the Games Workshop terrain piece, The Fortress of Redemption.
Nice segue.
But see, for you, that's a good purchase. For every other gamer out there, everybody knows it's just going to sit in their closet.
What?
But you actually
Have
make
you seen that thing?
Yeah, it's a beautiful piece of terrain.
No, that thing is. If I had a gaming table, if I had room to game, I don't actually have a gaming table in my house. That's why I go to my professional gaming store.
That's exactly my point, right?
But if I had a gaming table in my basement,
this is a beautiful.
That
piece
is a piece of terrain
to put on it.
I would buy and put together.
No, that's my point. Is that those of us that don't have tables,
right?
But it's so
lots
cool
of people do.
that we'll buy it.
Oh yeah, but if you have a table, get it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, it's crazy. It's got a giant guard tower, and the walls of the guard tower are these giant angels of death. It's got 2 huge bunkers. One has like orbital missile launcher silo, and one has a giant twin-linked las can. Oh, it's beautiful. It's amazing. I loved it.
Yeah.
Put it together, primed it.
Great, good times.
And I've actually put a bunch of asteroids together for Firestorm Armada, because Babylon 5, I just used templates and stuff.
You know what I heard was really good for asteroids?
Enough.
Preparation
Okay.
H.
Okay. And I dug through a box, one of my bits boxes, and I got a whole bunch of Battlefleet Gothic bits.
That's
and
illegal,
so
man.
A bunch of my asteroids have little bases on them and
nice
sensor arrays and things like that. So
now, do you still have your space table? I forget.
I do.
Oh yes, which is very important.
And yes, and it will be set up soon.
It's good to see that thing come back out of retirement. That's awesome.
Absolutely. So, other.
We just get an achievement for other?
No,
Excellent.
I got I think I gave myself 2 for asteroids, but you know what? One of
Take
them
one
like
more.
a
They're
giant,
small.
one like giant space
Did I
station
even
asteroid.
get any achievements?
Yes,
you
you
did.
did.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
So, we've also been, of course, Rafe and I have been playing the bejuzies out of Dragon Age Origins.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a few tips because everybody keeps, all of my friends, when they get into Dragon Age Origins, ask me the same questions. First tip. There is actually a camp you can go visit for your party. The camp icon is in the upper right-hand corner of the map.
Yeah, I had no idea.
So as soon as you get to the map, don't forget to go to your camp often to talk to the rest of your party and buy things and get enchantments for you guys, because everybody keeps forgetting that. The other thing is, don't miss the ability to say hold position to your party. It's if you go to the right trigger on the Xbox, get the radial menus up, go to advanced, and then pick hold position, your guys will stand still, and you can physically move them wherever you want before the battle starts. It's really important for setting up really good ambushes and traps. So my two big trips for Dragon Age Origins. Great game, still phenomenal. Okay. Good game.
All
I
right.
have to second that. This is the longest I've ever played a role-playing game ever on the Xbox. I'm really enjoying it.
Non-massive multiplayer role-playing game.
All by himself, no less.
Yes, exactly. I'm really enjoying it.
Which means you get one of these.
I played it Wednesday night. The new expansion
Not one of these.
Matro came out, too, Tuesday night. And what did Rafe do? Went gaming Tuesday night. And on Wednesday,
nice.
Russ, I played Dragon Age Origins.
There you go.
Wow.
Now,
So that's because I was totally in the mood for exactly what Russ said. Now, I have a different tip. If you're like me and you don't finish role-playing games, play it on the easy level. I have to admit, the boss fights, any of the fights are absolutely so easy. But you know what, Russ? It's just relaxing. I kick back.
Yeah.
I eat some chocolate from Thanksgiving, and I'm just having a blast.
Well, I'm playing on normal because I like the challenge of the actual combat. But I see
you're
what
a
your
more
point.
advanced role player.
Well, no, but I get it. But now, let me ask you this: last time we spoke, you were kind of like saying I was exaggerating the quality of the story. Do you find the story's getting better as you go on, or are you still thinking it's only but it's just fun?
No, I don't think it's getting better, but I'm definitely not disappointed.
Oh, good.
It's keeping me wanting to come back to see what happens next in the story.
Good. That's good.
And I think that I like that it's the easy level because I'm not getting frustrated.
Right. You're still able to follow the story.
I'm totally blowing through the fights, but that's advancing the storyline. So I think that's a tip. If you ever hear me complaining about a game that you know I would like, remind me that if I'm not on the easy level.
Play it on easy. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I discovered
Wuss
this.
out is basically the advice there.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Just remind me that I'm stupid and not good at games.
Don't be afraid to suck.
Yeah, exactly. See, but I can embrace that. That's because I'm Jimmy Django.
I guess so.
I discovered this game called Madden Arcade. Now, I like football, but man, I cannot play Madden 2010. It's too complicated. I don't know offensive packages and things like that. So there's this little bobblehead game. That's what we call it, Madden Arcade. Man, it is so fun. It's kind of like grind, only in that there's plays. You can hit your right bumper and left bumper, and you can freeze guys. You can make them fumble the ball. You can throw three balls.
But it's sort of
at once.
silly football, right? Like you can put ice on the field and stuff like that, right, or something.
Yeah, it's like silly football.
Right.
But it's still fun. Andy and I played it when we were over here. I play it with Lou. It's a blast. I highly recommend it.
That's on Xbox Live Arcade?
Yep, Xbox Live Arcade. I don't know the price because I don't convert Microsoft points inside my head.
It
could have been $100 for all I know.
Money means nothing to him. He's a lawyer.
No, of course not.
Okay. Now, this is very
Big
interesting
announcement.
news. Big announcement. Hollywood has an actual event scheduled at TempleCon from noon to 5 p.m. on Saturday, which I believe is the 6th, right, guys?
I don't know.
Yes, it is. Because Friday is the 5th. Yep, 6th of February, 2010, from noon to 5 p.m. You can play Le Havre with me. Thank you. Now, I believe I checked the
Wow,
site.
they were thrilled with that.
Let me ask you this, Rafe. Let me ask you this. During the entire event, will you talk about yourself in the third person?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And drink beer.
Yeah, they loved that
you
too.
can go
not as much,
to
though.
templecon.org and you register for the event. I have no idea how, but I do believe registrations are open at this point.
Right. Excellent.
All right. Well, there you go.
How many slots do you have there, Mr. Noon to 5?
Well, the game only supports 5.
So you better sign up soon.
Does it really take 5 hours to play that game?
It takes about 4.
And this is why. This is why I haven't. Despite the fact there's a giant campaign apparently building to get me to play this game.
Lucky you.
It's not like it's an hour game. I sit down and just bang it out and deal with it.
No,
It's
no,
like,
no.
You got to commit an afternoon to this thing.
Yeah.
So
But that's okay because there's no war and fighting.
That's right. It's all happy bunny.
It's all happy stuff and building and ships.
There's deceit and espionage amongst the dock builders. You have to bribe your way for the packages to get through. I don't know. I got nothing. All right.
All right. Well, I
you,
got
Craig?
my Babylon 5 second edition ship list book, and I was like, why did I get this when I got it?
That's what I'm wondering.
Well, I got it because everybody was like, hey, that's a great game. And I was like, oh, it is a great game, but I don't have the latest stuff, even though it's not supported anymore. So I'm glad that I got the rule book because that's got all those missions. And I think we could really do some cool stuff with Firestorm Armada. But I don't. I guess the first printing was in color, and the printing I got was in black and white.
That's
so
weird.
It was just a whole bunch of disappointments.
Yeah, some weird things happen at Marvel.
And so I'm gonna give that one of these.
All right.
However, on the upside, a bunch of people have been emailing me and going on the Daka discussion group to help me out with recommendations for reading that has Space Fleet combat in it.
Right.
And the one that I'm in right now that I'm loving is the Lost Fleet series by Jack Campbell, which I'm absolutely loving. I found on my own, but then had recommended to me the Lieutenant Leary series by David Drake, which is I only read the first book, and there was only a little bit of space combat at the very end, and it wasn't that much space combat. And I shame to admit this, but the whole Grok thing really upset me.
Why? You
So
didn't know about it?
I'm trying to catch up on my Heinlein.
You never read Strange in a Strange Land?
And no, so
That's like
I know.
literary
So right-
masterpiece
so
stuff.
right
dude.
now, I'm also reading. Actually, I think I've only probably got a few pages left of "The Moon is a Harsh Mistress,"
All right, there you
which does have some space combat at the end, but again, it's not
No.
like really.
You know what
exciting.
I'm realizing as Craig talks about the books he reads?
What?
If I didn't spend so much time on Latro, I could read some books.
You could do that.
You know?
Now, if you're like me and you prefer visuals,
Yeah.
the best here's
Which
my
is a great thing to convey on a podcast.
well, because we're going to talk about that's why I added sound effects. We're going to talk about Firestorm Armada next episode.
we are.
Now, we're very excited about the game.
Yeah.
And so, as Craig said, he's reading all these great books in space combat. But another thing you can do to get inspiration for these kind of games is to watch great movies with space combat or TV shows with space combat while you're painting your models.
Absolutely.
And I would recommend the following classics.
Okay.
Of course, one of the best having fleet engagements in it with fighter craft, because you got fighter craft.
You have to, yeah.
Is Star Wars.
Yep.
The only problem with Star Wars is the artistic call that was made by Mr. Lucas to have the aircraft fly like World War II fighters.
Right.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
But if you want space, but Star Wars probably is the problem.
What are you talking about? The way the X-Wings flew?
Yeah, they're all based on World War II flight dynamics, which is fine. It's just that's why they bank and turn. You don't have to do that in space. If you're looking for one, but then I also recommend Babylon 5, the series.
Oh, yes.
Not any of the movies.
No.
Avoid anything that's a Babylon 5 movie. It's crap.
Yeah.
Right.
Unfortunate. But
Also,
true.
much like Star Trek, if you see a Star Trek episode where Riker has a beard in Next Generation, you're okay. If he doesn't have a beard, it's bad.
Yeah.
In Babylon 5, the episodes with Commander Sheridan as the commander of the base, Babylon 5 are better than when Sheridan's not the commander of the star base. So Babylon 5 is another good series to watch if you've never seen that before. I would also recommend Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, the Cardassian War episodes. Phenomenal space combat with capital ships and combat and things like that, and large scale fleet actions also. Those would be the big ones I would recommend. Battlestar Galactica is good, except that a lot of shows didn't have any
Episode
space
1.
combat.
Hey, Russ and
season
Craig,
1.
Did you guys like Voyager?
Nah. No.
I love
Other than the
Voyager.
Next Generation, I never really got into any Star Trek.
The problem with
love
Voyager, even though I'm a huge Trek fan, is this is when my brother checked out of Voyager. Every time there's this one alien race that kept bothering Janeway.
Oh my! And
every
every
time they showed up,
this is the line in the
if
sand.
you do this again, and they do it again, like 3 episodes later, they do it again. If you do this again, I won't.
This starship has enough firepower to destroy your civilization. If you ever cross me again, that's what I'll do. And then they come and do it again.
Yeah, it was like Janeway let the bun down
I
to
didn't
kill them.
remember that.
Oh, it was awful.
yeah.
It was
Well, the
awful.
voice of Catherine Janeway, I swear, is in Dragon Age Origins.
Probably. You know who else is in Dragon Age Origins? Morrigan is played by the woman who was in Pitch Black and in Farscape.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
There's some wild rumors on the net right now about a production company that's trying to do a second season of Firefly.
Ooh, really?
Oh.
I believe that when I see it, though.
And Wash is in on it.
Yeah.
I know. I'll believe it when I see it too. I'm just saying.
So I want to know about the book, because I wasn't that excited about Firestorm. I'm like, whatever. You guys are just another hotness. Blah blah blah. And then I went with Rush to Dan at Myriad, and I saw the the painted covers in the box of the ships. I was like, oh, those things look really
And
cool.
you have to wait, like the rest of our listeners, till episode 46.
That's
Not
right.
going to give us a teaser. Is the rule book good?
The teaser is the rule book is full color.
It's full color with lots of cool pictures. Episode 46.
Well, Craig, you got Russ back because he was like on the fence or something.
I didn't get him back. The game got him back. Russ was a lost cause from my point of view. And
Well,
then
I just-
all of a sudden
yeah.
we got that 8-page email today. My initial first thoughts about Firestorm Armada. Here's 8 pages.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. I got that podcast
One
in the
page.
can.
It's good. Yes, that's right. I got
Yeah.
the bullets already done.
There you go.
So we'll definitely talk about Firestorm Armada in next episode.
Yep.
And suffice to say, we don't review games we don't like.
That's yes.
So,
Yes,
And
we
you get
don't.
a tweet for me to try out, right, Craig?
Yes, I do. What are you doing on
Awesome.
Saturday?
Awesome.
Oh, okay.
he's awesome.
Cool.
He's awesome with awesome sauce.
On Saturday.
I do want to try it.
All right, good.
Okay.
All right, we'll see you next Tuesday on that one then. All right, and that's
Yes.
achievements, right?
Yep.
Yep.
You're listening to the D6 generation. We just love playing around.
My favorite thing about our friendly professional gaming store is the personal service, with the store keeping up with my interests and letting me know when something I'd like is available. Thanks, Myriad Games.
My favorite thing is the knowledgeable staff. When I go in looking for something, I can literally say, I like this, I don't like this, or I'm looking for this, and they can provide a great game recommendation. Thanks, Myriad Games.
What I like most is I have my very own game broker. I mean, he guides me right to the games I need, and he helps me stay way clear of games I don't need. Thanks, Myriad Games.
My favorite thing is the fantastic selection with hundreds of games in stock and fresh titles arriving all the time. There's always something new and shiny to check out. Thanks, Myriad Games.
My favorite thing is that I can make a special order and receive any of thousands of items in a timely fashion. Thanks, Myriad Games.
And thank you to all our loyal customers.
We look forward to providing you with friendly professional service each and every day.
Thanks for shopping Myriad Games.
And now, what's in the news? With the shout out from Squid Eye to the guys at The Bitter End, whose first season just wrapped up at The Bitter End TV. Way to go, little brother. Let's see, what's in the news this week? Oh, look at this. Got a lot of Games Workshop news this week. The good news is a lot of good stuff from Games Workshop. The bad news is a little bad news from Games Workshop too. So let's get right into it. First, we have some exciting news from Cyanide Studios. If you fancy yourself to be an expert Blood Bowl player, now's the time to tune up on the old Blood Bowl PC game. You can sign up for the Blood Bowl World Cup. Play online worldwide for your chance to win $8,000 in the World Championship. That's right, real money for playing a game. Go get 'em, boys. On the bad news front, apparently last month was a tough month if you were a Games Workshop fan site, or indeed any website that published Games Workshop-related material. It's been going on since the fall, pretty much, that GW's been sending out quite a variety of cease and desist letters to various websites who have images or comments or even fan-based content about their games. And the end of November was kind of a shock to a lot of people in the community when Board Game Geek, the largest website dedicated to games of all types, really, got a cease and desist letter from Games Workshop as well and was required to pull down, or they decided, I guess, the best way to comply was to pull down all fan-related files attached to any Games Workshop games. A lot of great fan-based quick reference materials and other handy ways to play Games Workshop games, even games that are way out of print. It's a little bit of a shame there, and we're not really quite sure what Games Workshop's motivation behind this is. They're claiming it's protecting their IP, but of course a lot of big companies protect their IP in different ways and still let fans post informations and share their interpretations of game rules out there as well. So, little strange move there, and I thought we'd report on this since last episode or two ago we commented we thought Games Workshop was getting better with public relations, but unfortunately it looks like they have a little bit of work to do in other areas as well. But that's no hate, just a little disappointment there from Games Workshop. On to other companies. We'll come back to more Games Workshop later. The Hordes Mark II beta test, the field test, as Privateer Press likes to call it, was launched around November 20th, sometime in November anyway, and it's been out for a little while, and there's quite a buzz on the internet about it. We haven't had a chance to talk about it much in the show because there's been so many other great games we've been reviewing, but many of the forums and some other podcasts have been ringing in on it. And basically the general consensus is that it's now easier for war beasts to frenzy, so a little trickier to keep them under control. And it's a little more costly for War Beasts to stand up. You can shake off knockdown effects, but it's a little trickier. So looks like some War Beasts took a little bit of a hit there. At least that's the general consensus, but of course it's still in the early test phases right now. So check on that. Head over to privateerpress.com if you want to check out the new Mark II rules. They're there free for download. These are the test rules, though, remember. Let's see, from other companies, the Sea of Blood rules are up on the website at fantasyflightgames.com. If you're anticipating Sea of Blood as much as Wakeland is, that's right, baby, I can't wait to get it. Wakeland, calm down. If you're anticipating the Sea of Blood rules as much as Wakeland is, you can now get the full PDF file of the rules over at Fantasy Flight Games and start checking out how to best fire your rune cannons at the opposing pirate ships. Speaking of runes, there's also been another Rune Wars preview posted over at Fantasy Flight Games, so check that out as well. If you're looking for Rune Wars is the new big box set, sort of land conquest fantasy game set in the Descent / Rune Wars universe. So check that out. Hey, did you tell them the news about the new Paradigm? There's some great new... What are you talking about? What do you got over there? Oh, I've got this great paperwork. Just give me that, Wakeland. Shouldn't you be over there painting a Firestorm Monofleet? Oh yeah, I got to finish a cruiser. Get out of here. Anyway, Wakeland's bringing me some news about Facebook. Apparently, he wants to keep you guys up to date on Facebook. So here you go. There's a lot of rumors going around that Facebook is not private, and there's a lot of ways to lose your privacy on Facebook. Anyways, the recent letter from the president of Facebook has announced that they're going to give even more ways to control who sees your posts. Currently, in Facebook, you can set it up so that only your friends see your posts, which is pretty typical. However, now you're going to be able to control which groups of your friends see your posts. So you can, for example, if you're a closet gamer, you could make sure that only your geek friends see your gaming posts, and while your professional friends would only see your comments such as, had tacos today for lunch and they were tasty. I know that's such important information. Head on over to facebook.com and check the blog.facebook.com to see what the latest post on that is from the president. They're also going to be doing some interesting things with regions as well. So if you're a Facebook fan, you want to check that out. Let's see, what other news? Litco Tokens, a great token maker. Litco, they've created a new set of tokens for Warhammer Invasion, as well as some interesting little perfect sized squares for Monster Apocalypse to place to show which buildings are on fire or indeed knocked down. Kind of interesting little thing, so check that out if you're interested in those games. And let's see what else we've got. Some other new news from Games Workshop. I promised some good news from Games Workshop today, and I got 2 bits from them. First of all, GW has just announced the release of the Battle Missions book coming soon. This is going to give you a lot of mission variety in the Warhammer 40,000 game, so for those of you like that. Supposedly it's going to be able to let you to recreate a lot of these super cinematic scenes that are often found in the Black Library books. And speaking of Black Library, we here at the D6 Generation just received this interesting little catalog of the summer 2010 releases from the Black Library. I thought I'd go through here and give you a little preview, if you will, of some of the new books coming out soon so you can get all excited. First of all, we have here a new hardcover installment of the popular Ultramarine series, The Chapters Due. So that's looking pretty good. So if you're interested in the Ultramarines, that's a good one coming out. Let's see. What else do we get here? Total Fangirl, I'm interested in this. A new heroine's out for blood. Ulrika the Vampire. Apparently Games Workshop is cashing in on the vampire craze and coming up with a new vampire novel series. Pretty exciting. I guess as long as they don't sparkle Total Fangirl, I'll be happy. Let's see what else do we have in here. A new title in the Warhammer Heroes series. Let's see. I think it's called A Time for Heroes. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It's Sword of Justice. Right, my bad. And this is interesting. Now, this is probably the most interesting new release I saw in this book so far. A new book by Gav Thorpe called Path of the Warrior. Now, what makes this interesting is the cover art is an amazingly detailed drawing of an Eldar warrior in his armor. And this is interesting because Black Library is sort of steered clear, historically, of novels where the main character is in fact not human. This may be the first one where the main character follows the adventures of an Eldar. This Eldar looks like a striking scorpion, too, if I look at that helmet correctly. Looks pretty interesting. I want to check that one out when it comes out. I don't know, that sounds pretty cool. So that's some of the new stuff coming from Black Library in summer of 2010, so keep an eye out for that. And also, if you're interested in Tyranids, there's a new Tyranid model preview up on the Games Workshop website as well. So I told you we had some new exciting Games Workshop news also. And that's what's in the news.
Tired of pen and paper? Take your game to the next level with Army Builder and Hero Lab from Lone Wolf Development. Army Builder has been the standard for Army construction software for miniature gamers since 1998. And coming out in July 2009, Army Builder 3.2 includes PDF support, streamlined user interface, mobile device output, and lots more. And for RPG players, Hero Lab is the award-winning character creation and management software for players and GMs alike. Hero Lab supports all the major RPGs from D&D to World of Darkness. With Army Builder and Hero Lab, point-and-click simplicity lets you spend less time prepping and more time playing. Download a free demo from our website, www.wolflair.com. Discover for yourself why 100,000 gamers have chosen Lone Wolf Development.
Hello, I'd like to welcome you all to our interviewee for tonight, and that is Joe Krone from Battlefront. Joe, how you doing?
Guys.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, Joe, how you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
Great.
Well, I got this crick in my back.
Oh, come on.
We're doing great. Okay, Joe.
We are very excited to talk to you, my friend.
You are?
Yes, we've been waiting for this
show.
for a long time.
And the first question we always ask all of our guests is, are you now or have you ever been a gamer?
Absolutely. It's one of the reasons why I've worked in the industry as long as I have, is the passion for toy soldiers. It just started with collecting, and then it became hey, I might be able to turn this into a job. So that's where it's taking me now.
Excellent.
What games bring us back? Bring us back in your origin gamerdom.
Well, my introduction to toy soldiers as a child was historics. I started collecting 15mm American Civil War, as well as as a young gamer. Like most people, I collected the like the Airfix and the Italieri and the plastic toy soldiers that you kind of buy, and they came in a colored plastic and
Oh yeah.
cut them up.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
My brother and I used to shoot them with rubber bands.
Absolutely.
There you
Now you're talking Wakeland style back there.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. But actually, my introduction to the miniature wargaming that we all know and love today, believe it or not, I was introduced to it by a bum on the street.
Come on.
I am dead serious. I was in college, and I managed a video game store. And I am not kidding you. A panhandling bum walked into the store. We
prefer the term transient.
That's right.
I think that's the more politically correct term, is transient. He walked in with a paper bag and dumped a bunch of stuff on the counter and said, I found this in the trash, which only God knows where he really found it, and said, I want to get rid of it. And I said, okay, I think my buddy, because I saw the Games Workshop Warhammer symbol, and one of my buddies that I was friends with, I thought played Warhammer of some sort. Mm-hmm. So I bought the stuff off the bum for like $30. And I called my buddy up all excited, thinking, hey, I got this awesome deal for you. I'm going to sell you a bunch of models for like $30, and you're going to have an awesome army. Well, come to find out, he played 40K, and I just bought like a 4,000-point undead army.
Wow.
So after I got off work, I went down to a local gaming store, and they dumped it on their table, and they showed me what I had, and walked out the same day with the Warhammer starter set and the Magic supplement.
Wow.
There you go.
Wow, the Magic supplement. Now you're dating yourself.
Right.
Yeah, well, I got into a little late. No Rogue Trader for this guy, or original hardback Warhammer for this guy. But
that's still pretty old school.
That's still pretty old.
So then
school.
you started with the GW. So when you were younger, you were in the historicals. Then you got distracted by Games Workshop for a bit.
Yep.
And then did that kind of roll you into where you are now, or did you have any other interim steps?
No, I mean I pretty much been involved with Games Workshop since college, and played 40K, played Fantasy, played all the supplement games, the War Master, Battlefield Gothic, all that stuff. And then I subsequently worked for a hobby shop, and then ended up applying for a job at Games Workshop and got it. Mm-hmm. And worked for them for 7 years.
Wow.
And then just within the past 2.5 years, I've been working with Battlefront.
So how did you get started with Battlefront? How did that transition? Did you find the game first? Did you find the company first and the game second?
The game first. I started when I was living in Chicago working for Games Workshop, I walked into a very, very awesome gaming store. And they had a whole bunch of this Flames of War stuff. And I was like, ooh, cool, World War II tanks.
Yeah.
And I just bought the stuff like any historical gamer would with the intention of recreating a battle. I wanted to do El Alamein in North Africa.
Oh, yeah.
So I started collecting, British tanks and German tanks, and all of a sudden this rule set came out, and I started putting together an army, and I realized all the stuff that I just bought doesn't fit in any respective armies. So,
Story of our lives, isn't it?
What are the chances of that happening?
Right.
So,
now, Joe, I have a question back along this time. So when you said you had Civil War 15 millimeter, were you just collecting those for your own hobby of collecting, or were you actually playing historical?
No, I just thought they were cool. So I was that's when I kind of started trying to paint them a little bit, and I would have loved to have held on a couple of those models. Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was wondering when then you saw the 15 millimeter tanks, if that was a familiar size to you. Because most of the people describe your beginning, except they was like, well, I played D&D, and then I found Games Workshop. You're the first guest, I think, that's like, well, I found 15 millimeter figures, and then found Games Workshop, and then came.
Yeah. Well, that's true, and I did dabble in D&D. I did do some role playing and stuff growing up, and actually one of my real good friends had a massive miniature collection for Dungeons and Dragons. And him and his brother were both very, very talented artists. His brother ended up going to work for Disney. I mean, their paint jobs are incredible, and I think that's one of the things that might have inspired me. When I got older and I started seeing all these toy soldiers that you could put together and paint, I kind of harkened back to those days. But miniature war gaming, I think, really started when I started collecting the American Civil War stuff.
Okay.
Cool.
And so then you're back in the really cool game store in Chicago. You see the 15 millimeter tanks. You start building your recreation battles, and then what?
And then I left Games Workshop and ended up eventually applying for a job with Battlefront. And I said, hey, I know this stuff. And I got a job working for Battlefront Miniatures, and I think the rest is pretty much history. I've been collecting, Flames of War for probably going on about 4 years now, as well as some of the other Games Workshop stuff. So,
all right.
Cool.
I think you've established your gamer cred.
Yeah.
What do you do? What is your job? And describe that for us at Battlefront.
Okay. I'm the event coordinator for Battlefront Miniatures.
Okay.
And basically what that entails, my job is kind of multifaceted in the respect that each employee pretty much wears about 75 different hats.
Right.
And part of my job is I help the guys that work in the warehouse. So on our busier sales days, I go down and help the guys in the warehouse pick orders and keep the place straightened and that type of thing. And then towards the tail end of the week, I coordinate our events.
Okay.
Whether that'll be sales conferences or conventions like, Gen Con or our national tournament, which we've had for the past 4 years now. So those are the type of things that I do.
Now, Joe, where are you based out of? Because, Battlefront's in New Zealand, so you're obviously the U.S. coordinator. Where do you work out of?
I work out of Newark, Delaware.
Okay.
Which is our U.S. Office. We also have another office in Nottingham, England.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Right down the street from some other miniature companies you might have heard of.
Yeah, there's a few toy soldier companies in Nottingham. I think.
Yeah, I guess so.
And do you know the origin story of Battlefront and, how big's the company, how did it get started? It's based in New Zealand. Tell our listeners about that.
From what I know, and some of this is going to be just kind of grapevine hearsay, from what I understand, it started with one of our game designers who's still with the company, designed basically a 40K, it was Warhammer 20K. And it was a kind of an offshoot of the Warhammer 40,000, but using World War II.
Okay.
And from there, it kind of developed into Flames of War. And our owner of our company is pretty much a semi-retired fisherman. He owned a fishing fleet, which he has subsequently sold, and now he just owns the water rights. So he just sells the water rights.
Oh, wow.
And people can fish it. So, and he owns restaurants and other things as well. And he has been a huge Toy Soldier fan for generations. And one of the things he wanted to prove to his father was he could start up a Toy Soldier company and actually make it successful.
Huh.
That's interesting.
So not only does he have the privilege and the honor of playing with toy soldiers on a daily basis, but now he's also trying to make it a successful business. So.
Oh, well, so far so good.
That's really cool.
That's right.
That's a really interesting story. So, and now obviously Flames of War is huge right now. Obviously, it's one of the three major miniature war games people talk about, and it's carried in most stores. Do you know when Battlefront started feeling like that picked up? I mean, is that, have you been with the company pretty much since that's happened?
No, when Flames of War and Battlefront Miniatures pretty much saw the writing on the wall that they needed to grow a little bit bigger and needed to have a U.S. office, I would say that probably happened about 5 years ago.
Okay.
We have one employee that is still with us that actually, I think he was one of the first U.S. employees to be hired. So he's been around since the inception. And I would say about the time that the U.S. business just started, that's when it really boomed, because now you had a U.S.-based office, you had customer service and all those services available to the independent retailer that was in the same continent. So it made things a lot easier. And it really, really boomed from there. And we've pretty much have been experiencing steady growth since then. And with the acquisition of Gale Force 9 and War Games Illustrated, we're starting to dabble in different markets. And the company continues to grow from that as well. So
now, Joe, how do the people in the trenches with you, how do they feel about the Gale? Like when we found out about the Gale Force 9 and the magazine, it seems pretty exciting for us. Is there a nervous edge maybe in the, like you're excited but nervous, or like how do the guys, the rank and file at Battlefront feel about all this expansion so quickly recently?
That's a great question.
Well,
Thank you.
to start with, we're very excited because that just means that we can buy stuff cheaper.
Well, there you go.
We're all
Gale Force 9 at cost.
Let's look at it from that angle first. As far as the business side is concerned, I think the most important thing with that is making sure that even with the acquisition of Gale Force 9 and War Games Illustrated, is to make sure that they kind of fit the business model and what we want to do as a company. And right now, with the transition, there was definitely a few hiccups. There always are. And we feel comfortable of where Gale Force 9 can go and what they're going to have to offer for the industry. And War Games Illustrated has just been booming. The number of subscriptions that people have been picking up since we've taken over the magazine, the fact that the content hasn't changed, but in my opinion has only gotten better. And I've heard a lot of compliments about the magazine since we've taken it over. And with Dave Taylor coming aboard, he's offered his own flair to the magazine as well, which is great. So we're excited as a company, as employees, to see what these things are beginning to offer. The only thing we have to be careful of is just making sure that we keep our eye on the ball and don't deviate from the game plan.
Right. Mm-hmm. No. Well, I mean, with those two acquisitions, you seem to be really setting yourself up for a big launch with your capabilities anyway, with the company going from just the 15mm World War II. That it seems like the sky's the limit at this point.
It's true, but you also have to be careful, especially in the historical market, because unlike a company like Privateer or Games Workshop or someone that basically owns their own IP, a historical miniatures-based company doesn't own any of that.
Right.
So with us releasing, our War Games Illustrated Vietnam series and the World War II and all that, we can't protect any of that.
Yeah.
Right.
So although we probably would want to do 20 different time periods, it's a question of which scale. How does it fit into the rest of the industry? Are we going to offer something to the customer that they can't get through another manufacturer? What about a rule system? Things of that nature. And I think that's one of the reasons why Flames of War has been as successful as it's been, is because it's a full service station.
Right.
We give you rules and we give you toy soldiers.
Yeah.
And a lot of historical companies I don't think have caught on to that yet.
Right.
No, I would think that's probably one of the main differences in the historical side of the gaming industry, really.
It's a huge challenge for someone like me who's sort of a dabbling historical gamer. And one of the things that drew me to Flames of War was the fact that I could go to one company, get everything. I knew it was all going to work together.
Exactly.
I knew it was all designed to work together. I knew the rule. There was a place I could go for FAQs. It was all one central location. I think it's really the first time it's been done in like that well for historicals, and it's a level of quality that Battlefront does it, which is nice to see. Joe, quickly, how big is the U.S. office now for Battlefront?
It's deceptively small. For as much as you see Flames of War out there now, we're not a very big company at all. I think worldwide we have a little over 100 employees.
Oh, wow.
Okay, nice.
And in the United States we have 8.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I run a company with 3 people, so to me, that's still pretty big.
That's true. That's over double.
That's right. If I do my math right.
Dabble in some math.
So I think that sometimes, it is absolutely a compliment when we get put into the same ballpark with a company like Games Workshop and things of that nature. But a lot of times it's very deceptive to the customer because they would expect the same type, the same level of customer service or support from us that they would like a Games Workshop, and we're just not. We're not nearly as cash rich as a company like Games Workshop.
Sure.
That was a question I had for you, Joe, if you know, which is we've had the grace and opportunity to interview Matt Wilson of Privateer Press a bunch of times, and we've gotten the sense that he's the creative director and he's got a great team of people and a great president, and you kind of get this sort of collaborative, creative concept with their game designers. And we've never interviewed anybody from GW. Maybe we can in the future, but we have the sense that there's this megalith corporation in England and in here, and we don't quite understand their ways when they shut down message boards and stuff. How would you say Battlefront is run? Is it run by sort of one captain, or is there a board or collaborative, or do you know?
Having two companies in England and the United States, in a lot of ways, we have kind of I would almost say we have not necessarily a blank check, but it's close. We're able to operate the business as we see fit to the best of what our business needs. But we also have to make sure that we communicate that to all of our officers located in New Zealand. We have our studio design team, our sculptors, our writers, artists, all that, are basically located out of our New Zealand office. So other than things like play testing, it is actually difficult for us to contribute to the artistic side of our Flames of War hobby or Vietnam because of the time zone difference and everything goes along with it. Shipping times, all that. I mean, if I made a piece of scenery to go in a book, I would then have to ship it to the studio, which could take weeks.
Right.
So
you don't have. So people shouldn't be thinking about like how Games Workshop has this huge facility in Baltimore. You're like that. You're a very small location, so it's really much more of a satellite compared to the main corporate office in New Zealand.
Yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, we're a holding company.
Right.
We provide customer service to our independent retailers in the United States as well as the customers. We have, a customer service department of one guy. We have a customer service team that handles all the retail shops. We have a warehouse that manages the stock that goes out to those customers. That's what our facility does. I'm the rarity. I'm the oddball in that I'm a support mechanism for all of our customer service to provide things like prize support, events, and support it from the hobby aspect of giving people something excited get them excited about playing Flames of War. So then they want to go back into their local gaming store and play that next game and get excited about the hobby. And, at the end of the day, hey, buy some toy soldiers because, that's
what it's all about.
It all comes back to the toy soldiers.
I think you guys do a great job, and I think everybody, when you look at the quality that comes out of not just the U.S. office and the event support you guys do, but also if you look at the quality of the products that Battlefront puts out for such a small organization, I think it's completely fair and appropriate to compare the quality to Privateer and Games Workshop, because I think you guys put a product out that is equal in almost all respects to those products. In some cases, is superior. So
I like that new hardcover rule book.
Yes, which is phenomenal, by the way.
Beautiful.
I don't know if you've listened to the show much, but I'm very critical of rule books, and I think the Battlefront's Flames of War hardcover rulebook is definitely something that the rest of the industry could look at and take some hints from. It's phenomenal. It looks great, and it's easy to use, and it's a great reference as well as something to look at. So I think you guys do a great job, and I think it's kudos to to such a small team to do such a wonderful job.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
I will definitely pass along those compliments. One of the things that I really enjoyed as a player picking up the rule book was the fact that I could find 99.9% of the rules in the italics portion of the rule book.
Right,
that's exactly right.
But it's
and the first time I bought the War of the Ring book, I bought other rule books, and that was the first thing I did. I was like, well, where are the italics?
Right. Where's the basics?
Wait a minute.
Right.
So that makes it very, very handy for a player in any setting, whether it's just a friendly one-off game or a tournament, where you don't have to skim through 4 or 5 sentences of historical data or information to find the rule to say, no, you're wrong, or whatever the case may be.
You know what else is fun about those books, too, is, you could easily get away in a World War II game with very little fluff or background material in the book, because everybody knows about World War II. You can find it anywhere.
Or they can go find it themselves.
Right, but you don't. I mean, Battlefront puts in original color artwork that could easily get away with a bunch of stock black and white photos.
Yep.
They don't. A lot of original artwork.
Well, they do use black and white photos, too, which are beautiful.
But there's a lot of originals.
Context.
There's a lot of great stories in there. Some are original, some are historical anecdotes. Just really wonderful. It's a great book, not only easy reference book, but it's a great looking book. And it really complements the whole package of the game and makes you feel like you got a really quality product.
That structure where you've got the rules specifically set out is something that a lot of game companies just haven't mastered yet.
Right.
Where
surprisingly hard.
Fluff, blah, 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 fluff, blah, 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 fluff, 2d6, blah, blah, fluff. I'm like, great. Okay.
Right.
Now,
well,
Joe.
as a consumer, because I don't, yes, I work for Battlefront Miniatures. I could toot our horn all days, but as a consumer, one of the things that it would almost be a customer for life type philosophy is some of the things that our boss has done with the rule books, where hey, you bought first edition rule book, bring that in. We're going to give you a free copy of the softback rule book when it comes out.
Yeah, that was
huge. When we brought out the new Africa book, we offered to all the stores free copies of any of the supplement books. So if you bought a new Africa, even though you had an old one, you got a free copy of, if you didn't have Cobra or whatever the case may be, you got a free copy of that. So it's things like that even though we're not this huge conglomerate, it's customer first. And I think that's what a lot of people have kind of glommed onto, is the fact that, we're a friendly company that realizes, like, hey, we understand that going out and spending $50 for the book that you just spent on 2-3 years ago, we understand that. So if you're going to do that, hey, here's a little thank you.
And that's great.
Yeah, we agree with that philosophy 100%. We talk about that all the time, actually, Joe.
Yeah.
The fact of that trade-in for the rule book as one of the ways we feel, as consumers, as you put it, miniature companies should treat their gamer clients, customers.
Yep.
Now,
I 100% agree.
And having all this really cool stuff is awesome, because that's where all your stuff comes from. But we all know, and especially you, because it's your job, that without having some sort of organized play and the system and getting out there with all these events, you really can't build your player base. So I know you just said that's a big part of your job. What are some of the events that you've put together that went particularly well, and where might our listeners have seen Flames of War before? We've been to Gen Con twice now, and I don't remember, where were you at Gen Con, and what are the big things, some of the big highlights of your event schedule that you've put together so far?
Well, we do nationals every year. It started 4 years ago at Origins, and then the following year it was at Origins again. And that was essentially run by one of our clubs called GameCore, which are based out of Indiana. And they have a bunch of what they call companies, which is essentially a chapter. So they hosted that the first 2 years when the company had 2 employees in the United States. The third year, I actually was hired like the same week that Origins was happening, and that national tournament ended up being hosted at. I'm sorry, that was at Origins as well. Then the following year it was at Historicon. And that's mainly where we've run a lot of our events and activities. Is we usually support a local club or local gamers. So we're kind of working behind the scenes.
Yep.
And that's where a lot of my work focuses towards, is supporting the clubs, the organizers, because I being one person, I can't be everywhere all the time.
Right. So give some examples. Is that like prize support? Is it scenario design? Is it tournament packets? Is it all the above? Is it things I'm not mentioning? What kind of things do you provide to your player base and your organizers out there?
It's mainly prize support. If I need to get involved further, either working with a convention to make sure that they are signed up properly, or giving them scenario ideas. I develop a lot of that stuff, and a lot of times I'll send it out as a, hey, if there's anything else that you're thinking of, here's a list of 20 different types of tournaments that I've designed.
Oh, cool.
Things of that nature. If they use them, great. If they don't, that's okay too. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to dictate to them the type of games and activities they want to run. I just want to support them in the fact that they're supporting us.
Right.
So if they want to run a historical recreation and they want a few blisters or something like that to hand out, great. If they need a banner or something like that I can accommodate them with, I will absolutely do that as well. The one show that I've had my hands on and been knee deep in for the past 2 years has been our national tournament.
Nice.
Right. And that's based on a qualifier system.
I was going to ask, there's a qualification thing that happens locally and then you get invited? Is that how that works?
Yeah, essentially any local game store, any club organizer, any Joe Schmo off the street, any person can run a qualifier.
Maybe a bum.
I'm sorry?
Maybe a bum.
Transient.
Maybe a transient.
A transient. Yep, a transient. If he's got the willpower, he can absolutely run one. And it's an easy process. Our application is on our website. They fill out the application, send it in to me. I get them registered. They run their event. At the end of their event, they have to fill out a roster of all the players that participated, and then they email that in to me. One of the things that we instituted this year was the dog tag system. And players that want to have a permanent ID, which a lot of companies out there are now doing, they just send in their information, and then I mail them out a dog tag that has their permanent player ID number on it.
That's cool.
That's really cool.
And whenever they play in a tournament, rather than filling out their name, address, telephone number, all that stuff every single time they participate in an event, they just write down player ID 37.
Oh, nice.
Right.
And they're done. And I have that on file, and whenever they turn in a roster, I track what players play in what tournaments, and I'm attempting to use that information for future ideas. And the top X number of players, based on the total number of participants, qualify to play in nationals, and then they just let me know if they want to attend or not.
Can you play in any number of qualifiers you want? Because I think I know that TempleCon's running a national qualifier, and then I think TotalCon, either before or after TempleCon's running a national qualifier. Can a player in that area play both?
Yep, you can play in a qualifier every day until you qualify.
Okay.
Practice makes perfect.
Now here's the difference, and I know other companies have brought out qualifiers as well. I know that Magic's got a qualifying system, and I know Games Workshop just announced theirs. What we use the national tournament for is not necessarily to find the best player in the world. It is a qualifying system, but our qualifying system is a little relaxed in the sense of, well, to give you an example, a qualifier has to have a minimum of 12 players. All right. Okay.
Okay.
From those 12 players, 2 would qualify. Okay? For every 6 players after 12, then you get to add another person.
Oh, I see. Right.
So if there's 24 players in a tournament, then 4 players would qualify.
Well, cool.
Okay?
Yep.
If, let's say us 4 played in a tournament, we all qualified. We came in 1, 2, 3, 4, and we all qualified.
Yep.
Then it would move down to the next 4 spots.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So it's not like, if Rafe is already qualified,
right,
and he goes and plays in every tournament and wins every tournament.
He blocks other players. He doesn't do that.
He doesn't block other players.
Oh, nice.
That's clever.
Okay. Yeah. And who judges it? Like, how do they know that the TempleCon National isn't run more strictly or something than the TotalCon one?
That is completely up to the tournament organizer. That's the beauty of the system.
Okay.
Is other than sending us in an application, letting us know that you're running the qualifier, and we do offer price support for the qualifiers, they can run it however they want. If they want to, the points, how many rounds, if they have to stand on their head during their games,
right?
They can choose as the organizer how they want to run their tournament.
Well, that's really cool.
That is cool.
And the other really cool thing is that you don't actually have to run a tournament to have it count as a qualifier. Actually, up in New England, in Massachusetts, I've had a couple stores that ran leagues.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's a cool idea. I like that you can make it flexible, so you can run all kinds of crazy events. And as long as basically you could even run something like a Mega Battle or something, right? Or whatever you really wanted to design. Is that pretty much the case? Or
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that would be something that we probably would discuss with the store to make sure that we understood what they were attempting to do.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's like I said, it's not a system that we're trying to find the best person in the world.
No, you're trying to find
there is going to be a winner.
Yeah.
But the focus here is we want to promote gaming.
Yeah.
When you want to get dedicated players. So as long as they're dedicated to the hobby and they like to play, then
I'm really glad you said that, Joe, because I've heard about the qualifier. I really like Flames of War. I enjoy it immensely. I'd say it's my favorite Army scale game. And, I hear the national qualifier and I quake in my boots. It was kind of like when I heard Privateer Press's Hardcore. I just was scared that I'd be masterminded by these master Flames of War 15mm players, and I was like, oh, that won't be fun. But now the way you've described it, I'm like, oh, okay, I could do one of those.
Yeah, no, I mean, there are very, very good players at the event. We see a lot of the same faces each year because they're very good players and they qualify.
There's nothing wrong with that. But it sounds like I could at least play.
You could absolutely just come and play. I mean, I know a couple of years ago at Nationals, we had guys that qualified that their first 3 games qualifying for the event were their first 3 games in Flames of War.
There you go.
So
it's fun. So there's competitiveness there, sure, but then you could also just qualify through some fun event and just get there and experience the event and have fun. What's the turnout like at National? Do you have a fixed number of slots, or it sounds like is it pretty much going to accommodate however many qualifiers you get, or how does that work?
That's a good question.
Well, right now we topped out 2 years ago at 108.
Wow.
And that was just the number of participants we received.
Wow.
And the hall was pretty full. If we would have gotten 6 or 8 more, we would have been really hard pressed to get them in.
Wow, 108's a lot.
But we at Battlefront, we have 100 gaming tables.
Oh. Wow.
And we're developing more scenery, and for the first 4 years, between our scenery and we invite clubs to come out and ask them if they would wish to contribute to the event as well. Between us and other clubs, we have accommodated every player that's shown up.
Wow.
So as of right now, between what Battlefront has to offer and what clubs we know we can absolutely call in a moment's notice and say, hey, we need your help, we could probably accommodate 200 plus players.
Wow. Now, while we're on the subject of really large tournaments, we heard a little rumor that there's this really, really large tournament that goes on in Chicago called Adepticon.
Mm-hmm.
And we heard a little rumor that Flames of War will have a presence there this year. Is that true?
That is absolutely true. Yep.
Is that going to be a national qualifier, or is it going to be a really large thing? How's that going to roll?
The Game Corps Club, which I spoke about earlier, is going to be hosting a bunch of events. One of their events is going to be a mid-war tournament. which will count as a qualifier.
Okay.
And we're working on some other special things to go along with that, as well as everything that Adepticon has to offer. I mean, they don't skimp when it comes to a good show.
No, they don't. It's an awesome event.
Yeah. So we're really excited. I've known the Adepticon council members for quite a few years. I worked with them for the 3 years I was out in Chicago. So we've gotten to know each other pretty well. So it was a very easy transition when they called me up and said, "We really want to have Flames of War at Adepticon next year.
Great.
What do you think?" And didn't even have to think about that one.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's great. So what? Well, I just lost my train of thought. What do you got, Craig?
Okay. Well, I gotta. Do you have sign-ups yet for your Adepticon? Like, do you have an idea of what the numbers might be that you're looking at Adepticon?
I'm not sure. I just actually spoke with Hank, one of the council members. He's pretty much leading the charge this year.
Yep.
And next year. I just spoke with him, and he said that they're tracking very, very well on all their events across the board. They're actually ahead of schedule compared to where they were last year.
That's great.
Yeah, and he mentioned, I think we have 60 slots for the mid-war tournament, and he said, from what the numbers are looking like right now, we shouldn't have a problem filling that.
Oh man, that would be awesome.
That's awesome. Well, that was my question. For those listeners who aren't familiar with Flames of War, I mean, they know it's World War II. So you're describing this tournament as mid-war. What does that mean to someone who's not familiar with this idea of time scales or timelines in a video in
World War II?
In a World War II game.
Okay. Our game is basically broken down in the three segments: early war, mid-war, late war. Early war will be out actually next year. Mid-war basically encompasses 1942 and 1943, and late war is 44 and 45. So we have designed the rules where the game plays exactly the same. It's all the same rules, except the army lists are different. So it would be difficult. It would be very, very challenging for you to play a mid-war army against a late-war army. Right. Pretty much you would lose almost every game.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, I put that in my notes, yep.
Because the points values change.
Right, the technology changes. So what's really happening is the technology involved in that part of the war is what's available to those lists, right? So the things the Germans had at the end of the war are very different than things in the beginning of the war. Is that kind of how it works?
Correct, yeah. Right. If something had come out, and we do look at manufactured dates, availability dates, things of that nature that the game designers work on. And if something was produced in maybe 1943 but didn't see a lot of combat until 44 or 45, you'd probably see that type of tank in the late war armies.
Right.
And if it was in a mid-war, because it came out in 43, it would be very limited availability, and it also would probably be very high point cost.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a question for you, Joe, if you know. So I know that MMOs will hire economists to help run the in-game economy. Does Flames of War hire historians, or is it more the writers and the game developers that's just their passion and they're sort of, historians by trade?
I would definitely say a lot of them are historians by trade. They just have a passion for World War II. The nice thing is even if we in the office are just talking about World War II and something weird comes up, even if it relates to our game, like, why is this particular tank, why can you only get one platoon of them? Why can't you have multiple platoons or whatever the case may be? We can send an email off to the writers, and literally within moments they'll send an email back with, 2 paragraphs of, historical data saying, well, this is why.
Oh, that's cool.
So they're very, very passionate. I mean, I actually do reenacting, and they call these type of people thread counters, because they know how many rivets are on the side of a Cromwell tank, and the distance between each road wheel, and they have a passion for World War II to that scale.
Wow.
So it helps them in sculpting, it helps them in army list designs and things of that nature, and they do research. When they're writing a book, they will sit down and do research on, like right now we are bringing out books for Operation Market Garden. So when they go to write one of those books, they'll sit down and they'll pour over, information. They'll contact, National Archives. They'll do all that stuff that's required. So when you get that finished product, that'll be as historically accurate as we can make it.
Yeah. That's one of the things I enjoy is it, like Russ was saying with the books and the Army books, which we'll get into in the other segments of the show, is you get a chance to revisit history without reading it in a history textbook.
Now there is a slight exception to the rule. Some of our heroes, some of our named heroes, were not actually heroes. So if you are a World War II fan, and you're reading some of our Army books, you may think, oh, well, this guy, John Smith was actually a captain, and you try to go to do more research on him, you're going to find out that he didn't exist.
Okay. Gotcha.
So there are some heroes that we have designed that represent the quote unquote generic hero.
Right.
And we've just given him a name.
Yeah.
Sort of the G.I. Joe, if you will, of
exactly
of that time.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
That makes sense.
Well, Joe, the last question I have for you is, and we don't want to get anybody in trouble ever, but are there anything coming up from Battlefront, any secrets or scoops, if you would, for our listeners that you are allowed to reveal about the company or any products that may be coming out?
Let's see. Well, as you all know, we just are getting ready to launch the Vietnam miniature set for War Games Illustrated.
Right. Yeah, I'm excited about that.
And that is, I think we're just starting to release that. So I think customers are going to start being able to pick that up either this week or next.
The helicopters look awesome.
The helicopters
They're
are
phenomenal. They really are.
They are really, really cool. We got one sample of each blister that was sent to us prior to us getting our actual shipment. Yeah. And we were playing around with the helicopters and stuff, and they're really, really cool.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I haven't had a chance to get the War Games Illustrated yet. Do the people have to get the rules there, or are you going to be putting out a Flames of War Vietnam supplement?
No, it's and that's one of the things. That's one of the, I guess, the rumors or whatever we could probably kill here is that the Vietnam rules is written, published, designed, and manufactured as a War Games Illustrated quote-unquote supplement.
Okay.
It is, the rules will be in War Games Illustrated, actually the issue that is coming up. So it's December's issue, which we've probably either got in the warehouse this week or very, we should be coming in very, very soon.
So on the store shelves soon.
Yeah.
Yes. But the full version of the rules of how the Vietnam part of it is in War Games Illustrated.
Okay.
It plays exactly like Flames of War.
I understand.
All right, so this isn't really, so it's not really
full-blown supplement
this
for
is not,
Vietnam War. It's more of a
Flames
scenario
of War
kind of.
Yeah, this is sort of like a company-produced fan product, if you will.
Exactly. Right. I mean, the idea here is if you guys have seen the movie We Were Soldiers.
Yes.
Right.
Genius tie-in.
Yep. Well, this is exactly what it is. It's the airborne assault of the Idrang Valley where they land in. Awesome. And they're attempting to engage the North Vietnamese forces.
Okay.
And that's literally all it is. There's no tanks. It's literally what you saw in the movie is what you get in the War Games Illustrated supplement.
There you go.
And they'll be able to buy the soldiers that you may need or the helicopters from Battlefront?
Yeah, as of right now, it's being offered as a direct-only item, like a mail-order item.
Okay.
There are going to be stores that will have access to it, but it is going to be a limited production run.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I believe once it's sold out, it's gone.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that either. So it's a limited time offer.
Yes.
Sort of like a test of the water.
Because it's an offer, it's a magazine offer. It's not necessarily a Battlefront offer if you kind of understand the difference between the two.
Gotcha. Sure, yeah.
Now that's
kind of
interesting.
like the limited edition coin set.
Right.
Call now.
From the Franklin Mint. Call now.
Now, are there any rumors of future magazine supplements that you guys might be interested in looking at or pursuing?
Well, much like the Mid-War Monsters supplement, which was an experiment, which was a company experiment to see if people were interested in that type of thing, and it's going to be based on the interest in the success of this. And in the future, we could do anything. And that's the great thing about it is that with having War Games Illustrated, being a magazine that covers and encompasses every historical time period, war, battle, you name it.
Yeah.
You know, the world is our oyster. We could do what we want. So it doesn't necessarily have to be 15 millimeter. It doesn't necessarily have to be based on Flames of War.
Very nice.
It could literally be, you know, an 8-page one-off set of rules on, you know, on anything.
Yeah, and now, not unlike a network putting out mini-series, we could probably conceive that if a supplement you guys do in your magazine is particularly successful, it may be expanded on in the future?
That's always a possibility.
Yeah.
You know, the thing you run into with that is if it's highly successful, does that mean that the next supplement will be just as successful?
Right, yeah.
You know, it's kind of like the sequel to the movie.
Yeah.
And that's the thing you got to be very, very careful of, is because if you do a supplement to the Vietnam, well, now what's stopping us from making a Vietnam, you know, a quote-unquote core game system?
Right.
Whereas now, with having it offered through War Games Illustrated, it's kind of a fun one-off, you know, hey, this is cool to do on the side, but our Flames of War start our bag.
Right. Oh, I see. Yep.
We can basically say, hey, that was a cool one-off thing. Maybe down the line we do a little something here or there, offer you know, a quick reference sheet or more, maybe some new tokens or something along those lines. But it's not necessarily something that we have to give full blown support to like we do Flames of War.
I think it's really smart, because we've seen other companies in the past launch these other games and then realize they don't want to support them forever and drop them, and then they get accused of not supporting these games. Where you're saying up front, this is just a side.
Well, there's not only that, but if it's this little one-off supplement where, hey, every now and then, instead of playing World War II, let's bust out that one battle from Vietnam, you're not endangering chipping away the base in your wheelhouse.
Exactly.
Right? So you've got, you know, it's just one little thing. It's almost as if it's a board game, really.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's the thing that we as a company have to be careful of, is we have to make sure that we educate the customer that, you know, hey, this is a great one-off game. You can do a lot with it if you know how to play Flames of War. You know, these helicopters are cool.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to put on some 1960s music and you know, and the Flight of the Valkyries and blow some stuff up. But we have to be very, very clear up front. You know, whereas other supplement games, they kind of give that stigma of, hey, this could be around for a really, really long time, and then when it goes away, everybody's just like, what happened?
Yeah, I could see that being a danger. Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this, without giving anything away or going any place weird. Let me just ask this question: the magazine War Games Illustrated, is it strictly historical, or will it sometimes cover things that aren't necessarily historical?
That's an excellent question, and that's the nice thing about the title.
Yes.
So there could someday, and this is totally unofficial, just me making crap up, okay, at this point, but there could someday be a little supplement in there about, I don't know, like zombies showing up in some random game that maybe you guys published, or, I don't know, spaceship UFOs, or who knows what. I mean, you know, theoretically, we could do whatever you want.
Sky's the limit.
Right.
Yeah, and then that's the nice thing is that, you know, with owning Gale Force 9 now and not being part of the family, and they've had licensing for all sorts of, you know, different miniature games and you know, card collectible games and things of that nature. So realistically, the way that our company is now set up, we're not pigeonholed into just being a historical company.
Right.
So, I mean, yes, Flames of War, that's our baby. That's what we want to focus on. That's what that's what's brought us here. So I think it's important to not lose sight of what got us here. But, you know, could we feasibly do a War Games Illustrated article about, we're going to offer 3 destroyed cars, 20 zombies, and 3 survivors, and here's a little zombie game. Could we do that? Absolutely. Are we going to do that? Only time will tell.
Right.
See, there you go.
Let me just put the plug in now for War of the World Supplement 1950.
Oh, I like 15 millimeter zombies. Then you could have hordes of them.
Flames of War versus Flying Saucers. I'm all over that.
Right, yeah.
Or a 50-foot woman. Either one's fine.
Oh, yeah. But Flames of War versus UFOs.
To the left. So,
right.
Hey, Joe, I hope I don't sound stupid here because I don't surf the forums. Is Battlefront going in the direction of the South Pacific, though, since that's in the warehouse?
Our our plan is this, and getting back to your earlier question about upcoming stuff. Our plan is this. We want to do Early War, which will be out next summer.
Yep.
And that's going to encompass probably a couple of different books because it's just I mean, you think 1939 to 1942. It's a lot of years in there.
Right.
So we're gonna probably need a couple of books to cover all that.
Who's, if I may ask, if I may interrupt you, Joe, if I may ask, who's in Early War?
Well, we'll have Polish, obviously Germans, French will be the three main players early on.
They do want to play.
And then you also have the BEF, the British Expeditionary Force.
Okay.
Which was also sent over to France to try to stop the Germans from taking France.
Because I know Craig and Russ are behind me on this. I mean, who really is going to play the French? You know.
Yeah. Well, you'd be surprised.
I want to see the sales numbers for early war French armies. That's what I want to know.
Well, that's the misconception, about, and not to completely go off the rails here, but the French had, in some instances, better equipment than the Germans did.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't use it as well.
I can imagine the scenario now. You spend 6 hours building this awesome wall with guns on it, and then the German player just goes around to the left.
That's right, yeah.
It'd be phenomenal.
I want to go to the gaming table to the left.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right. I want to go through the floor.
That'll be a roll. That'll be a rule in early game. You roll a die, and on a 2+, the German gets to choose a different board entirely.
Right.
That's right. But that was like the rumor. Some gentleman was selling Flames of War Pacific on eBay, and it was a really, really badly drawn cover.
Oh, geez.
But he was using the Flames of War name on it, and of course rumors started flying everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of our game designers wrote a Flames of War Pacific Army list, which consisted of a bomber, an atomic bomb, and an observer, and it equaled 1,500 points.
I love it.
Nice.
So we had a little fun with that one.
I like
Cool.
All right, but we sidetracked you. So Early War first, and then South Pacific?
And then, we have no date on the Pacific yet, and there's many reasons for that. One of which is it's a completely different style of warfare than the European theater.
Right.
And there's a lot less tanks, a lot more naval and air support than there was in the European theater.
That's kind of what I was looking forward to seeing maybe one day.
Yeah, and that's something that we're looking into, and doing Vietnam is kind of, you could almost even look at it as, hey, how is these mass infantry battles going to work?
Right.
Are people going to enjoy it? Because realistically, the Pacific that's what it's going to be about.
Good point.
It's going to be about the Joe Grunt, U.S. Marines invading islands.
Yeah.
And you got lots of off-board naval and air support. And to make that fun and also fit within the realm of Flames of War is it's just taking time to try to figure out.
Yeah, definitely.
So, but we got, in the meantime, like I said, we got Early War. We have a couple Italian supplements for Late War that are going to be coming out, covering Monte Cassino and the Anzio landings. So that's going to be pretty cool, because I know a lot of people like the Italian theater. And then for Gale Force 9, they're just going to continue cranking out lots of cool pre-painted stuff.
Oh, that scenery is looking beautiful.
Oh, it looks awesome. Yeah, the scenery looks amazing.
Have you seen the new Gothic ruins yet?
Yeah,
Yes.
the new non 40K stuff.
Yes. It's awesome. It's great. It's pre-painted, ready to rock.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, all
It's
that
great.
stuff is beautiful.
Yeah.
But
So-
the Gothic ruins are particularly pretty, yes.
Well, I was happy to see that, too, because we were nervous when Battlefront acquired GF9 that there'd be this, maybe it'd all be Flames of War now, and you wouldn't see anything else that supports the game, so it's cool to see stuff that comes out for everything,
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing to establish is Gale Force 9 is not going to be a Flames of War, go do this now.
Right.
They're going to continue to do scenery and things of that nature for 15 millimeter, and that's one of the things that it's kind of nice to talk about is that it's going to be 15 millimeter, and it's going to be 25 millimeter or 28 millimeter.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things that we bring out, like the river set with the bridges, could you use that for Napoleonics or, American Revolution or something like that in 15 mil? Absolutely.
Cool.
And that's the thing that we have to kind of look at as a company as well, is that when we make these scenery sets and bring these out, we have to look at not only, our Flames of War customer base, but how many people are we reaching out to?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the nice thing about Gale Force 9 is that they can offer that. They can offer that, hey, for 25 and 28 mil, we don't sell anything in 25 or 28.
Right.
So these Gothic ruins, and we're going to be coming out with forests and, and other types of scenery sets that are going to work for both 15 mil and for the larger scale. So I think it's going to be, you're only seeing the tip of the iceberg right now.
Wow, that's
Very
great.
good.
That's exciting stuff.
That is great.
And the fact, the thing that, my jaw hit the floor on was when we got a little presentation on the Gothic ruins and then the price point.
Oh, yes.
I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But, that's the nice thing is that it's, as most wargamers out there, do you want to spend your time on making and painting scenery or painting your toy soldiers?
Right. Yep.
And 9 out of 10 people will say, I want to work on my toy soldiers.
Right.
So Craig, different with you.
Hey, I like
you guys
both.
can fight about that off the air.
I like both.
Well, Joe, I don't have any more questions. Thank you very much for your time. Russ, Craig, do you guys have anything?
No, Joe cranked through everything I had.
Thank you so much, Joe, for taking the time out and giving us this great insight into what it's like to work for Battlefront and where Battlefront has been and where it's heading.
No problem.
It's very exciting stuff up ahead.
And guys, thanks a lot for inviting me on, and I really enjoyed it.
Well, thanks for coming.
Thank you very much for coming, Joe.
We'll have you back on as soon as you want to talk about that Attack of 50-Foot Woman thing.
Attack of the 50-Foot Woman.
All right, I'll work on that.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
absolutely.
All right, man. Good night.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, guys, happy holidays.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye, Joe.
All right, take care.
I'm Rafe Hollywood Granger, and this is the Hollywood Minute. With somebody who feels the same way as me. Quote, I feel the same way about the gameplay in Le Havre. It's nice to see things getting built up instead of having two armies destroying each other. Russ, try Le Havre. I think that's from my favorite shout-out sponsor. Thank you. And now on to today's topic. Let's see. No. Here we go. Hollywood's Holiday Minute. Today I have a medley of topics to discuss. Maybe even wrap up some year-end Hollywood Minute questions that some of you may be left with. I don't know. They were left with in my head. Okay. I'll tell you what. I'm really looking forward to this next year's medley of farming and Euro extravaganzas. We've got Power Grid Factory Manager, which will arrive under my tree this Christmas. I'm looking forward to playing that with the Breakfast Club gamers. Also looking forward to the Gates of Loyang. And recently, I have a slight infatuation with the card game Dominion. I know that's not new, but it's been new for me, and we've been enjoying that at the Breakfast Club gamers as well. I'm very excited that I've been back into the miniature gaming world with Flames of War. I thoroughly enjoyed doing the Flames of War bullets and interviewing Joe Krone, and also was able to actually paint my platoon, as you recently heard. And you might remember I was wondering if, as I've gotten older, have I lost my desire to paint and instead just fool around in the world of an MMO? And I was happy to find out that the answer to that question was no. I just needed some time to myself. I was able to find that time over the 4 or 5 days off over the Thanksgiving holiday, where I was able to play some Dragon Age Origin and scratch that itch. I was able to play some MMO time, and then I was bored of that, and I wanted to paint. So I think the question is, I've just been too busy with life and with work. How many of you are also in that same boat? I'm sure many. And you know what? I have been having an absolute blast in my favorite world of Middle-earth. Yep, Latro, it's been fun. There's been no obsession. There's been no addiction. Just having fun. I'm really happy to have the addition of my real-life friends, Don, Brian Ahern, and his wife. It's been fun playing with them. I know Brian's always wanted to play a dwarf and has not been able to play that in WoW because he plays on the Horde side. And it's been exciting to see Don enjoy Latro as well. He's playing a Warden. He's having a good time with that. I'm having an absolute blast with Stoney. I really know what you know what they talk about on the guild, about how you can get into your avatar. I just think that's been a blast for me. The graphics on my doghouse system, every day I play on my doghouse, it's like Christmas to myself. That's been fun. Looking forward to the new recipes that are going to be in the game. That's going to be exciting. Of course, I can level to 65 now. I don't feel any rush to do it. Matter of fact, I haven't even been in Mirkwood yet. I've been enjoying the new skirmishes. To be honest, they're not as fun as the public quests so far, or the open RVR that we found in Warhammer Online. I think that was a real unique thing to see in an MMO, but hey, the skirmish thing is trying. I think Turbine's a solid company, and I've been really enjoying that. And lastly, I have been enjoying and looking forward to playing more on my Xbox. I've been playing the best role-playing game I have ever played. Now, granted, I've only started a few, but this one's really kept my attention, and it's been very satisfying. I think the secret is to play on the easy mode. That way I can keep advancing the story and not get bogged down in combats I can't finish. Yeah, the combats have been pretty simple, but nevertheless, they've been very enjoyable. It's actually making me want to play Mass Effect 2, which I had no interest in playing Mass Effect 1. And on that note, these are some of the things I'm looking forward to playing in the new year if I can get some Xbox time, which has been a challenge because it's the living room TV, and so between my wife wanting to watch TV and me playing Xbox, I haven't been able to get some time in, but that's because I don't want to stay up till midnight either. But I am looking forward to Left 4 Dead. I have some really good memories of playing Left 4 Dead 1. I'm looking forward to playing Left 4 Dead 2. I'm looking forward to playing Modern Warfare 2. That'll be fun. I think someone like going through that game with Dave would be a blast. Looking forward to playing Borderlands, which would be a 4-player. I hear them rave about that on Major Nelson all the time. And so that's what's been on my gaming mind recently. I actually have some more that's on my mind, so you might, just like in Flames of War fashion, see a Hollywood Minute Holiday Review number 2. I don't know. You never know. Well, that's my story.
Are you having trouble fitting your whole army into one carrying case? Ever had your heavy centerpiece models break through the sides of their foam tray to scrape against their neighbors? You'll never have to worry about any of this again with Battle Foam. The trays from Battle Foam will hold over 30% more models than any standard tray, and they make foam to fit any box, including all manufacturers' carrying cases. What's more, they will custom cut your foam trays to fit any miniature. The boys at Battlefoam.com can even personalize each tray by etching Army logos, personal text, or images right onto the foam. So go to Battlefoam.com right now and pick up the best foam on the market. You've spent more time and money than anyone wants to think about on your models. Shouldn't they be as safe as you can make them? Battlefoam.com. Hooah!
Hello? Hello, can anyone hear me? I'm afraid I might be the last human alive here. I have no one to play games with. I've found myself in Westchester, New York, and I don't know anyone. I'm willing to play anything. Board games, RPGs, miniature war games, card games, maybe even LARPing. A combination of those would be great. Maybe not LARPing. I have a great gaming space in my new business. Plenty of room to play games, store tables, terrain, food, and any other supplies we need in preparation for the zombie apocalypse. I'm hoping there are some mature adult gamers in or near Westchester, New York, either with an established gaming group or looking to start something new. I mean, it's a really cool gaming space, and I've got no one to share it with. Please, if anyone's out there, email me at danthesinger@aol.com. Help me, gamers of Westchester, New York. You're my only hope.
This is Total Fangirl. Regular Jane most days, Total Fangirl when the moment strikes. Han shot first. Starbuck is a guy. And Lestat, now there's a vampire. This week's Total Fangirl shoutout is from Justin, the bitter guy, to his lovely wife Cindy for being wonderful and for shooting down all those Cylons in the first round of Battlestar Galactica those weeks ago. Hey everyone, Total Fangirl here, and I have an awesome interview today. I'm really excited about this. First of all, it is National Cookie Week, which I just discovered. And secondly, I have found the coolest cookie website ever. It is called geekycookies.com, and I am fortunate enough to speak with Leo, who is the Geeky Cookie Man. Hello, Leo.
Hello.
And I had Leo on because I wanted him to tell us about his website, because when I found this, I thought it was the coolest thing. Leo, tell me about geekycookies.com.
GeekyCookies.com has a whole bunch of geeky theme-based cookies, all for right now actually mostly just sugar cookies with icing on top. And, we have Super Mario Mushrooms, we've got Starman, we've got, Star Trek uniforms, which have been very popular lately.
And you have to mention on the Star Trek uniforms on your website, you say you send them out and they're not equal numbers. You send more of which color?
The red. Just in case, because they do happen to get lost somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And, just in case, you might want some extras for you.
I thought that was very cool. And then what other kind of... I read that, I'm like, the man is a geek. Look at that. He has extra red shirts. That's perfect. And what other kind of cookie? There were some more I saw in there, I think, besides the Mario and the Star Trek stuff.
Yeah, we've got, we've got the Codex staff based on the staff from the Date My Avatar video from the Guild.
Yeah.
And we have a Legend of Neil-based cookie. It's the Zelda Heart cookie, which is actually one of our different ones. It's a red velvet cookie, really soft, really chewy, very moist, very good.
Very cool.
And we have a gag one on there, honestly. It's that 360 power buttons with the R-Rod.
I thought that was funny. That actually made me laugh out loud. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the red circle of doom. Ah!
Yeah. So, and we throw back to Pac-Man and stuff. I mean, we've got a ton more coming out. So
you do. You have. Now, how are you coming up with ideas? Are people sending stuff into, or are you guys just brainstorming?
We've got a huge list, a huge whiteboard ready with a whole bunch of cookies that we, when we have some time, because there's only a couple of us doing this.
Yeah.
When we have some time, we're shelling them out, making sure they're ship ready, making sure that they don't break, making sure that they don't dry out too fast or anything like that.
Right.
So we're testing those as we go along, and we also get a bunch of ideas from the Geeky Cookies community. I can say that now. I think
you have a community.
We have a community.
That's very cool. Now, how did you said on your website, you have to check out this guy's website, because the way you write up your little fact, it's like totally leet speak. It's awesome. I was reading it to my husband. He's like, "What are you reading me?" I'm like, "You have to come see this." But so you are a gamer. You say that you do play games. You are a geek.
I am. I that's the biggest geek part of me on the pie chart.
Yeah.
Would be video gaming. I've gamed since I was 4. My first memory is my uncle coming home to my house to play Legend of Zelda with me, the first one.
That is awesome. Not your mom, but your uncle and Legend of Zelda. Very cool.
Exactly. So that's my first memory of video gaming, and then just went from there. Right now, I'm actually playing Dragon Age Origins. Pretty crazy.
Russ
Only
has been
20%
playing
of the way in.
Wow. Russ has been playing, I don't know how far in he is, but he has been playing nonstop. In fact, the other day, his guy was saying something really stupid, and I felt bad. I'm like, can't you get rid of that guy from your little group or kill him or something? He's like, his response, "That's my guy." I'm like, "Oh, sorry." As I'm like sitting there, probably surfing your website, I'm like, turn that thing off. But yeah, he's been playing that for a while. So Dragon Age is your big game of the moment. What else are you playing? Or what are you going to play if you ever finish that, since you're only 20% of the way through?
If I ever finish it, I've already logged like 40 hours in it.
Have you really? Oh, you are crazy for it.
Yeah. I just finished another playthrough of Mass Effect, so I'm just loving BioWare right now.
Gotcha.
I'm waiting for... we're picking up Spirit Tracks next week.
Mm-hmm.
We pre-ordered that like a long time ago, so we're picking that up next week for the DS. And I don't know. We're looking for the... I'm looking forward to Borderlands. I've kind of pushed that off to the side for now, but once Dragon Age is done, I think I'll be doing that. But my fiance and I used to actually play World of Warcraft together.
Oh, you're WoW people. You feel about it. And hey, wait a minute. You guys played that together? You said you and your fiance both played World of Warcraft together?
That's correct.
That is kind of unusual. Normally, I hear about guys who play World of Warcraft and their ex-fiancé doesn't play with them anymore.
No, that's not the case. We stopped before Wrath came out, though, so that's unfortunate. We've lately been kind of dying to play again, so Dragon Age Origins is filling a hole.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm a former 70 Paladin Hunter, and she's a former 70 Mage. So.
That's so funny. Now, your fiance, when are you getting married? Is it very far off, or is it the big day soon?
We just got engaged in September.
Oh, well, then you have a little time. Congratulations.
Yeah, just before the website came out. So
you did that first. Good priorities. Get engaged, then do the website.
Exactly. So everyone out there listening, please buy cookies. You pay for the wedding.
Yeah, exactly. You're paying so you can get married. Now, this isn't a full-time gig for you. You have a regular job, right?
I do, unfortunately. I mean, if anyone's listening from my work, I love it. But I do have a full-time job. I rent out a kitchen to make these cookies on the weekend. Sometimes various times during the week.
Yeah.
When we very big shipment of orders to ship out, and we just do that when we have the free time, and it's been pretty crazy, pretty hectic during the holiday season, and we love it.
That's cool. Now, aside from being a geek and a gamer, do you the baking? What made you think to bake cookies? Do you have some kind of baking background, or did it just come to you one night where you were bleary-eyed from playing, Dragon Age?
Well, when I probably have been cooking since I was 4, like I was gaming since I was 4, so it's been something I liked. The baking has kind of just started kicking in maybe, a few months, not a few months, sorry, like a few years ago, probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And just one day, I was just sitting there making cookies for whatever reason. I don't remember now. I just remember I was making some sugar cookies, and I was like, hey, let's see what I can do with these, because I had some extra dough left over. And the first one I made was that Mario mushroom, and I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I started icing it, playing around with icing, and that was it, really. It's kind of boring, but
no, that's cool. I was curious when I saw it. I'm like, okay, is this guy like someone who was a baker or had some kind of baking background, or did he just suddenly think this could be kind of fun and decide to do it?
Number 2.
Okay, it's fun and decided to do it. Now, you said your fiance? In fact, she's on a shopping mission right now. He when I called him in to do the interview, he's like, I'm making a shopping list, and now he sent her off to go get baking supplies. So does she help you out? Is she like part of the team? Yeah.
Yeah, I call her my manager. I don't know if she likes that or not, but she's really good at making sure that I get my shipments out on time.
Yeah.
I have a good amount of stock. I have all the supplies that I need. She's amazing at doing all that stuff for me.
Very good. Behind every great man, there's a great woman. You know that, right?
Exactly.
Perfect.
And she's equally of geek status.
She is equal geek. Well, you said she plays WoW with you, so I knew right there she was geek. So that's cool. Does she play the Dragon Age with you, or any of that other kind of stuff, or is she mostly WoW person?
She does. We do have to fight for screen time.
You do.
But she plays Dragon Age. She's played tons of video games herself, and so we have a massive collection at home. It would be pretty interesting to see if I could catalog it. But
all of the games that you have, yeah. Russ keeps trading his in. When he wants to get a new one, I'm like, you can't have 952,000 of these games. Trade something in. You haven't played that one in 5 years, so I make him clear
for me
it
though, it's like a nostalgia thing. I have a hard time getting rid of older games, especially the ones that I loved.
Yeah.
Even if I don't play them anymore, I tend to keep them.
Mm-hmm.
But there are games that I have no problem trading in, to GameStop or wherever, and just go ahead. I need this new one.
You need a new one better, yeah. Russ wants to get he's not allowed to buy it, and if he's listening to the podcast afterwards, you are not allowed to buy this, Russ. He wants Assassin's Creed. That's the next game that he wants, and he said it's on his Christmas list, which I keep reminding him, if it's on your list, don't buy it in December, because he tends to do that, and that's a constant point of contention.
Well, there's a hint for you, Russ, I guess.
Yeah, don't buy it. You never know, Russ. Don't buy that game. So now, so you said it's you and then your fiance. How many other folks do you have working on this with you, or is it just the two of you?
It's just the two of us.
Wow.
Right now, yep.
So that's got to keep you really busy. So you're planning a wedding, getting ready for the holidays, have a full-time job, and you're doing geeky cookies.
Yep, and gaming.
And gaming. And gaming probably takes more time than all of them, no?
Sometimes I wonder.
Now, you said you were coming out with some ideas for new cookies. Can people get, like, what if you wanted someone wanted a cookie, like, I want a cookie shaped like, I don't know, a viper or something. Like, would you make a custom cookie for someone if they had a request?
Absolutely. What I'll do is, what I've actually already had done is people will email me or contact me in some way and say, hey, I kind of want to buy some cookies from you, but I don't see a design that I want. And then I ask them, what kind of design. So let's say like a viper, like you said, I'll do a prototype for them. I'll send them pictures of what it looks like, and if they like it, or if they don't like it, if they like it, I'll I'll make a whole batch for them, and then they'll buy it if they want, or if they don't like it, I'll just retweak the recipe or retweak the shape, and if they like it, then I keep trying to make sure that I have stuff that people want. Right now, I'm actually working on some Survivor torches for someone.
Oh, no kidding! That's
a big
cool.
Survivor geek. I think I can say that on the air.
What? Yeah. We'll know in about a week once this goes live. No.
And actually, that I don't always, sell the ones that people custom order.
Oh, really?
I don't always sell those out. But the ones right now, I'm assuming after the podcast is already up online, I will have some holiday cookies up.
Oh, you do? You will? I haven't seen those yet.
They're not up yet.
Not yet?
I'm actually, I'll be done with them hopefully this weekend, and they'll be on the site by, Monday the 7th? Yeah,
the 7th,
Monday
I
the
think.
7th, hopefully.
Okay, which is hopefully if Russ gets his acting gear when the podcast goes live, so the timing will be good.
Yeah, so just as a little sneak peek for you guys, it's going to be, we're going to have some holiday-themed pirates and holiday-themed ninjas and holiday-themed
Awesome.
zombies.
What's better, pirates or ninjas? Age-old question.
You can't. Pirate ninjas.
Pirate ninjas, it has to be both together? Pirate ninjas, okay.
It has to be.
We also
you're taping me on Ninja Day, so I'll have to say Ninja today.
You're kidding, really? Today is Ninja Day?
December 5th, yep.
Is there a Pirate Day? No, there is a Talk Like a Pirate Day. But I did not know there was Ninja Day, so I need to go dress in black and go kick some butt after this. Is that what happens?
Exactly.
Well, excellent. Well, thank you so much for being on with us, Leo. I wish you the best of luck with Geeky Cookies, and I will definitely be looking around there, and I can't wait to see what you have for your Christmas stuff. It should be great.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care, Leo.
You too.
Okay, everyone, that is it for me this week. You can check me out on my blog at TotalFangirl.com. You can also follow me on Twitter, Nicole Wakelin. I'd love to hear your comments. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Need to add a big unit to your current force and don't feel like painting that many grunts? Or maybe you want to start a new army and really don't have time to paint it up. That's where PaintedFigs.com can help. For over 4 years, their staff with over 20 years of experience in the industry have been providing gamers with high-quality, affordable paint jobs on miniatures for their most popular games, including Flames of War, Warhammer 40,000, Fantasy, War Machine, Hordes, and even a variety of board game pieces. Their full-service packages include the cost of the models themselves at wholesale prices, assembling, painting, and basing. And they now offer a super affordable dipping service starting as low as 99 cents per figure. Because they are able to get the models wholesale, you end up with a package appearing on your doorstep full of ready-to-play models at only a fraction over the retail price. That's why PaintedFigs.com is the official painting service of the D6 generation. Their name says what they do. PaintedFigs.com. High-quality miniature painting at the lowest rates on Earth. Even with shipping. Be sure to let them know the D6 generation sent you.
Hi, this is Jeff Carroll, the host of Podhammer, the world's first Warhammer fantasy podcast. Join me twice a month for the latest tools, tips, tales, and tactics from the Warhammer world, featuring witty and experienced co-hosts and special guests from across the globe. Get the most out of your game and download the show from podhammer.net or subscribe through iTunes.
I am the herald of the Northern Powers.
This week, along with the D6 generation, the Score embarks on the great crusade towards which we have striven these many years. And so, this week, the Score explores music for your games set in World War II. Now, as you know, I only have 5 minutes, so I'm going to assume, like all good World War II buffs, you already have a copy of the soundtrack from Saving Private Ryan and from the HBO series Band of Brothers. The first one by John Williams, of course, the second one by Michael Kamen. Now, if you don't have those, just go get them. They're great. Now, this first track you've been hearing is called President's Speech. It's by David Arnold, and it's from the movie Independence Day. Now, I'm pretty sure David Arnold, when he scored this movie, was channeling the epic World War II movies of the past. You could tell from the themes and the snare drum and the patriotic trumpet that that's what he's going for here, and I think he did a wonderful job in this movie. Independence Day is a great movie, in part because the score really does make you take seriously what you're watching, which is, of course, completely ridiculous. this second piece, with that beautiful boy soprano solo, may remind you of Williams' score to Saving Private Ryan, or even Michael Kamen's score to Band of Brothers, but it's not from either one. It's actually by Michael Giacchino, and it is from the EA Games video game, Medal of Honor Frontline. Giacchino is less well known than John Williams, certainly, but he's had a lot of work lately coming up along with J.J. Abrams' TV shows initially, in the Medal of Honor video games, and now, of course, J.J. Abrams movies. So he scored the TV shows Alias and Lost, as well as the Pixar movie The Incredibles, which is a bit of a departure for him, but it's a great, almost tongue-in-cheek tribute to the old James Bond scores. Now, this third piece I included because if you have the Band of Brothers soundtrack, there is a theme on it called The Mission Begins, which sounds very similar to this. If you haven't guessed it, this is the theme from Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and in fact the only good thing about that movie. It's also by Michael Kamen, and if you compare this with his work on Band of Brothers, it's very similar. Now, in addition to snare drum and trumpet and soprano solos, another way to go for your World War II games is, of course, period music. Stuff like the Glenn Miller Orchestra or the Andrews Sisters. I put this in here because if you put it in the middle of your period-style music, you might see someone look up curiously in the middle of your game and wonder how on earth Beyonce ended up in the 1940s. This is actually a cover of Beyonce's Crazy in Love by the Papini Sisters, who, if you look them up, do a number of sort of retro-style pop hits. I personally like to use period music in World War II aerial combat games, maybe Wings of War, that kind of thing. Somehow it seems to work for that more so than it does for the big tank battles. I guess because those games never seem as serious to me, perhaps are not as difficult. I suppose I now have realized that this show is bookended by songs called President's Speech, this one by Harold Closer from his score to The Day After Tomorrow. The Day After Tomorrow's theme, which you're hearing now, is really one of the best sort of unnoticed theme songs in a movie I've heard in a while. It really captured me when I saw it in the theater, despite the fact that the movie's completely ridiculous, and it even included a 20-minute artificially tense scene with wolves that should full well have frozen to death. I really love this theme. I have to admit, looking back on the songs from tonight's episode, that World War II war games are particularly difficult to score for me. Possibly because many of the movies with the best music in them, such as the ones I mentioned tonight, really do show a lot of sentimentality about the war. Saving Private Ryan's almost a tribute to it rather than a story of it. And perhaps that's just the way we view the World War II now. As a result of that tribute, the music is very patriotic and heroic rather than difficult and action-filled. I'd be curious to hear what you think about these songs or your own opinions of it. Feel free to email me at thescore.d6g@gmail.com. In addition, I'd like to hear from the listeners of The Score about what your top 5 albums for gaming are. What do you listen to? I'm planning on doing a show coming up where I go through those along with my own suggestions for complete albums that are perfect for gaming. If you have an album you just can't resist listening to, let me know. And once again, I am Ken Whitehurst, reminding you that you can forget the score, but you can never forget the greatest generation.
VR is going to be great. I can't wait to show this Chaos Scum the bite of my Ironbreaker. Here I go. I've got him targeted. That Black Ark is moving way too fast. There's too many people on my screen for my ancient PC. Oh, no. I'm screen locked. Now I have to reboot. I'm just going to bed.
Rafe, don't grip your pillow at night in PC frame rate paralysis. It's time to level up.
Level up? I can't. My damn computer's too slow.
That's the point, doofus. With a Doghouse System PC, you can have just what you need for the best in MMO play. Play your game at the highest settings, experiencing the very best frame rates available, and all at an affordable price. Now go back to sleep.
When I wake up, I'm going to www.doghousesystems.com. It's time to get in the house and level up.
PulpGamer.com. Never touch another man's dice.
Hello! Hello! And welcome back, everybody, to Hollywood's rendition of The Flames of War.
Na 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 na.
Hey, Russ, how nervous are you right now?
I'm not nervous. I'm very excited. You know, Flames of War is a phenomenal game.
It is an excellent game.
I'm ready to talk about it. We've had listeners emailing us since episode 2.
That's very true.
Literally episode 2.
Asking for Flames of War, the major D6G review.
You guys have talked about Games Workshop. You've talked about Privateer Press. But the giant elephant in the corner is the company Battlefront Miniatures, and we've never really given them the time of day that they deserve. And so here it is. And we've asked our number one ace reporter.
We've sent him out.
HD Hollywood Jimmy Django Granger.
The man on the street.
To get all the details. So, Rafe, take it away.
All right, we're going to dive right in. You ready?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. What is Flames of War? For people completely new to this genre of miniature gaming, we have a 15 millimeter. That's a different size for most of us that are used to 40K and fantasy miniature game set in World War II made by Battlefront Miniatures.
About how tall is a 15 millimeter guy, Rafe?
I would say about as tall as up to your pinky knuckle.
So the tanks in the game are about the size of what, a Matchbox car maybe?
Yeah, probably about that big.
All right, just to give people an idea of scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the German ones are. The U.S. ones are definitely.
And to give you an idea, you're not moving a bunch of tiny little men that are about the size of the first knuckle of your pinky individually. They're in stands of anywhere between 2 and 5 guys usually on a stand. Point. So you're moving your units basically each time you pick up a model. It's got multiple guys on it.
Right.
Yes. And some of you may have heard about Battlefront if you're not following Flames of War as a game. Of recently making the news because they acquired Gale Force 9, which a lot of us miniature gamers know about for their fine tokens.
Among other things, they also acquired the magazine
War Games Illustrated,
and they were the first major company to come in with the Romeo contact package.
The Romeo Battle Foam
specific Battle
branded
Foam
case.
Yep.
Which Privateer Press just announced too.
Yes, Privateer.
Comes out December 13th, and you want to order that from Battlefront.
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Indeed.
Yep. Little tip from Hollywood.
Let's get back to Flames of War, though.
Yeah.
All right, so guys, this is a huge game, huge topic. So I'm going to take a little bit more of a survey approach. It's not going to be super detailed, despite my bullets or my novel. And here we go. All right, as we've heard in the interview by now, I find that Battlefront is a company that cares, and we heard about Joe mention that with the example, the example of the small rule book. What do you guys think? What's your perception of Battlefront?
I think back when we all first got into Battlefront, when Flames of War, they were still only in New Zealand, so everything you bought was actually shipped to America directly from New Zealand. And I had some issue. Something I bought was there was a problem. Yep. And they shipped me literally a box of miniatures to make up for it from New Zealand the very next day. So in my experience, they're a great company that's very responsive to its fan base and excellent in the quality of everything that they've made.
Yeah, I don't think you could offer better customer service in terms of especially with the rule books coming out. And then, you heard it mentioned in the interview we've said on the show before where they released a new edition of the book. You can trade in your old one for the new one. That's just the kind of customer service that you dream about your company doing, but most of them don't. So it's really nice to see that happening with Battlefront. And then again, when you get down to the quality, which I guess we're going to talk about soon, the quality of the books too are phenomenal. You don't feel like this is a small, 100-person company.
Yeah.
That that Joe mentioned earlier in the interview. You really look at these books, and these books are the best.
They're right up there.
You can see they're right there. In my opinion, Privateer Press,
Definitely.
I've raved about the books before. Battlefront books are equal to Privateer Press, and in some ways
Definitely.
exceed them even in the organization. I think they do a great job with those, and they're a great book to have around. They're great. They're fun to look through.
Very polished.
Beautifully polished,
it
great
definitely,
index.
definitely totally different styles than both Games Workshop books and Privateer Press books.
Yes.
But no, these books are quality as far as just sitting down and reading
Well,
them.
they're also full color. They're
That's what I mean.
Got great indexes. They got great stories and stuff right out of
And
World War II.
The division of fluff or background,
Right.
it's not really fluff in
Well, it is
World
in some
War
cases
II.
because Joe mentioned they invent some characters.
It's a little bit, but you know what I mean, though, is
Right.
that color commentary
Right.
and the rules is it's interspersed a little bit, but it's very nicely divided out so that
Yes.
you're not wondering, like, why are you telling me,
Right.
a page and a half of a Space Wolf's background so that at the end you can say, so he gets 2 extra D6.
Right.
And that's just, I hate that fuzzy, not that is an example from real life, but I love
Right,
that
right.
aspect of their rules writing.
They also, speaking of the drawings and the imagery, they also do a great job with very graphic examples in the book.
Yeah.
Everything's well illustrated,
Absolutely.
well laid out. Great examples that also illustrate some of the more complex situations. A lot of times they give an example that's trivial in these games, and I think Battlefront does a really good job of trying to figure out the complicated situations and showing you how you handle them with great examples. And so, really, it's very clear as you walk through the book. It's also well organized in the order.
Yeah.
It's very, very clear how the game's supposed to work and how it rolls. So it's really a fun game to get into, and you don't feel like you spent $50 for the hardcover rule book. You don't feel like you spent too much. It feels like a really good value.
And if you're coming to this game like we originally did from 40K and that style, and you might have think that these somewhat historical games sort of are these 3-ring binders that are photocopied kind of look. Because let's face it, a lot of historical books that I've run into are of that quality. Not saying there's anything wrong with that, but this is not this book. This book is polished, colored.
Yeah.
Very
nice.
just like a Privateer Press GW book, definitely. And that leads me to my next point. There's some debate, at least as far as I know from the research of true historical gamers will often say in forums and whatnot that Flames of War is not a historical game. Russ, Craig, you guys have any thoughts on that?
Well, I would say it's a hybrid, really, because when you're talking to someone who will deny that Flames of War is a historical game, they're saying it not because of the rule set, they're saying it because of the organization of the games themselves, the scenarios. And I think those historical gamers want to recreate actual specific battles, and like from the rapid fire, they're talking about, like when we were playing our little Firestorm Armada thing at the store the other night, somebody came up and was like, oh yeah, because every battle in history was evenly distributed, of course. And he was making fun of the fact that the two armies were even. And those people are going to come at that, and they're going to look down on the idea of a balanced game, because that's not what happens in real life. And that's that chunk of historical gamers. And I think the problem that Flames of War is that it's structured so that you can have tournament, fair, evenly balanced
Equal-pointed games.
Exactly. Now you can also do it the other way, which you and Don and Brian have been doing,
which is historical.
But you're using the Flames of War rules. That's why I think it definitely is a historical game.
Right.
It allows for that balanced tournament style war game play also. That's what
I think the distinction is almost a distinction without a difference kind of thing, where you have the situation where people talk about, well, is Battle or a war game because it's not detailed enough like like Squad Leader is or something, and really it just gets down to people's idea of what a game is, but really you heard it from Joe in the interview. These guys know their history. They've researched their stuff. The tank, the representative stats and capabilities of all the models are historically accurate, as good as they can be in an abstract war game.
Yep.
They're but it still plays fast, which we'll get to later. So it is historical. You feel like you're playing with pieces of history, and yet you can do the what if scenarios. Like, what if you had an equal fight, quote unquote, between equally equipped Americans and Germans or whatever. And I think that's what really makes the game interesting. You can do both. So it appeals to both. It appeals to people who want to sort of play with historical stuff, some, but it also appeals to the game player, the person who thinks chess is an interesting game because both sides are equal and you have to try to outwit your opponent. It's the same sort of idea. You have that same concept, but you have this cool historical stuff to play with.
Yeah.
So
I agree exactly with the both of you. I think this is absolutely a historical game, although what Craig said is true, and I would grant that point to a historian gamer. But the fact that you can play it in a historical setting and then play it equal pointed, which a historian would say, well, the Americans never had Shermans in that battle. I guess it's almost like a weird war kind of thing. Like, all right, well, this battle's fun because it does have Shermans.
Right.
But let's face it, they are not weak on the historical accuracy as far as I'm concerned.
No.
Of what the Garand rifle was like and what the Russian artillery did. And they really spent their time on
comparatively,
that. So that's a historical game.
Yeah, from weapon system to weapon system, I think they all compare very favorably to each other as they would have in the historical context.
Right.
Yes. And another thing that may be new for again, if you're coming at it like we did from a 40K background, is the scale in the miniatures. And Craig alluded to that with the size and then all being on a base.
I think I actually
so 15 millimeter may be a new size for those of you listening here. Why 15 millimeter? What do you guys think? What's it like to paint? What does it look like to you guys on the table? What about the terrain? Craig, what do you think?
I think they did it so that you would have larger forces on the table and the ranges would be more realistic than, let's face it, they are in 40K.
That's a good point.
So that you've got forces that are moving across a 4x6 foot table that have room to maneuver and have room to put up lanes of fire and things like that before they actually hit each other. So there's more of a strategic element to the game. And as far as painting it goes, it's much easier to paint because there's not that much detail at 15 millimeter. There's a lot of dry brushing involved.
Dry brushing goes a lot farther at that scale.
Yeah.
How about your satisfaction level when you're done painting? Are you like, that was too easy, or how do you feel when you're done?
I classify it as what I would call an Imperial Guard style paint job army. Like painting up 1 billion guardsmen stink because there's just 1 million of them. But when you get it on the board and you see your force and it's all arrayed and it's all painted nicely, it looks beautiful.
Ross, what do you think?
I had fun painting my guys. I really enjoyed painting the tanks, and I'm stated on the show before. I'm a treadhead, which is why I used to like the Imperial Guard for 40K so much. But I think the scale in this game is wonderful. I prefer it. One of the challenges with 40K, for example, is you have all these great tanks and you have artillery, and especially now in the newest edition, you have all these great artillery pieces, but they really are kind of silly at the table you're at. I mean, a basilisk would never be within shooting distance of an enemy infantryman. It just wouldn't happen unless you're totally getting hosed.
Yeah.
Those things
fish in the barrel syndrome.
Yeah, well, those things should be 6 tables away.
Right. Yep.
And in Flames of War, what's great is the scale really allows them. We'll talk about this more later, to give you the full military options in a war that size, to the point where it is almost too big still. Like you can have literally platoons of tanks on the table, and it looks right, and it looks great, and there's room to maneuver. You can have platoons of men. You can also have artillery pieces in the corner that batteries of artillery firing. You can have aircraft sweep across the table in miniature and attack, and it's the right scale to get the full flavor of an entire war zone going on. To the point where it almost, again, even the table's still too small for some of the planes and stuff, and smaller would be even better. But the scale they chose, 15, is great because you can still see the helmets on the men. Yeah. You can still see them holding their guns.
You can still see the weapons.
You can rotate the tanks' turrets. There's just enough. You can even see the pintle-mounted guns in the tanks. It's enough to really give you the flavor and to have it fun modeling. Because any smaller, and you get to the problem what Epic had, Epic 40K, which the guys are little blobs.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy the scale. I think it's a perfect scale for a tank commander fan like myself because you can get a lot of tanks on the table and not clutter it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, my follow-ups to that are, I thought when I bought these models that I would hate painting them because I do like to spend my time on detail, and I thought they'd be too small. I get more compliments about my Flames of War army than any other army I've ever painted.
It does look
and like
beautiful.
Craig said, it's not that hard. And it's actually kind of enjoyable to just be like, okay, they're all green, paint some flesh, throw some ink, boom, you're done. And like Russ said, the tanks have more doodads on them than you'd think. There's coiled chains. These are all modeled right on them. Coiled chains, ammo boxes, shovels.
And there's room to convert too. You can find like extra pieces of tread and glue them on your tank, like extra.
That Battlefront sells.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And just doing that, remember, how Craig, how many people come up and look at our tanks and stuff, and they go, "Oh my god!"
The armies look great on the table. The sculpts are great, and when they're painted up, they look phenomenal.
Yeah.
The tables look really good.
They really do. So I think if you're new to painting and terrain, don't be intimidated because of the small size. It's not harder. I think it's easier, and you get a better effect.
I would
That's a big misconception, actually, by people who don't paint.
Yeah.
They assume that smaller's harder.
Yeah.
It's totally the other way around. Larger is harder.
Yep.
Large flat surfaces is much, much harder.
Yep.
Small and detailed is easy, really.
Yeah. How easy are those Uncharted Seas ships?
Oh, yeah, blast right through them.
Exactly. I mean,
and Arcane Legions.
Arcane Legions. Well, Arcane Legions is a lot bigger than 15 millimeters.
Still small. Anyway, yeah.
But anybody who started out painting an Imperial Guardsman and then tries to paint a Warjack, it's like, what the heck do you do with that huge flat shoulder armor piece?
Right. Yep.
That is tough to make look good.
Right.
You know, and I agree with Russ on the terrain and strategy. I love this scale because I remember when I first played Russ. I mean, he usually beats me in a game, 2 times out of 1 when it comes to tactical strategy type games. And I was reading a book on like armor tactics in World War II. And I ran an armored company and I employed those tactics and they actually worked. So I think the scale is just right. Okay, so enough about getting all excited about goobing over the strategy in the minis. So how do you get started and play? Now I'm going to spend some time here because it's actually quite a bit different than you might be used to again for 40K or even Privateer Press. What do you need? You need the rule book. They're in the 2nd edition rule book. It's full color. We've talked about it. Real world photos, historical snapshots. I love this rule book. It's set up so that all you do is you read the italics. That's the rule. Everything else is examples or supplements. I think we covered the rule book. Anything, guys, you want to say in the rule book?
Just there's also a soft cover, right?
Yeah, I own the soft cover.
So you can get either one, and the soft cover is more affordable, so you can get it either way.
Yeah.
Hardcover is beautiful, and if you're going to be serious about the game, I would definitely recommend that because it just looks so lovely.
Is there more content in the hardcover?
It feels bigger. I think it might be sort of similar to how 40K works with a little book and the big book.
Yeah,
all the rules in the little one, but
book.
I think the hardcover one has more examples. The painting examples has more of that stuff. So just go to your local friendly professional gaming store and check them out. But I think you'll find if World War II appeals to you, get the hardcover because it's got a lot of good fluff in there.
Yeah. I would say, though, guys, that I would rate this game, Flames of War, in this rulebook as you need a medium level of miniature gaming skill required. That doesn't mean you can't start at it brand new. That doesn't mean you get to play some other game for a year. But I just mean if you come to this game fresh, never played a miniature game in your life, don't be intimidated by the rule book. Don't look at it and go, oh, my God. Just work your way through it. It's simple, but it requires some thought. What do you guys think about that?
Well, it's not Arcane Legions, right? I mean, Arcane Legions
That's
is a
what I'm
simple
trying
rule
to
set.
say.
This is there with 40K and Privateer Press. I
think even one notch above.
Well, I don't know. There's a lot to get. There's a lot to get in those books too. With different things. But I think there's a lot to comprehend. So it's a big.
I think it's
project.
it's a miniature war game.
Yeah.
With all the different
entails,
rules
right.
that requires.
Yeah, good point.
There's
The
supplements.
other
there's
thing you need to
expansions,
know, so you hear, codexes and the Khador faction and things like that, to use analogies. Well, in this, they're called army books or force books. And what's different is if you're starting out brand new with your buddy, and Joe alluded to this in the interview, Joe Krone, you need to make sure that you guys, if one of you is going to play Germans and one of you is going to play British, that you start in the same war period, which for right now is mid-war and late war.
Coming soon.
So the example I have is you've heard me on the show mention that Don and I are playing the Africa campaigns. Well, that was more in the mid/early war because we're using non-Flames of War skirmish campaigns, but we're using the Flames of War rules. So U.S. was not in the African campaign until much later. I was playing British versus Don's Germans, and I was using the book of Flames of War called Africa. So it had the statistic gun charts of the typical field that the United States would have fielded in that time of Africa. Well, if I would have played against Don's late war Germans, I'd get my butt kicked. Does that make sense, guys?
I'm pretty sure you get butt kicked anyway.
Yeah, good point.
But I think what you're saying is you have to buy you have to build your list from the same era of the war. There are 3 eras that Battlefront is supporting. 2 are already out, mid and late, and there's a new one coming out early war next summer. And you want to make sure that you are going to be both in the same era.
Right.
And the other thing that's a little unusual about the game is it seems like the supplement books, what 40K people call codexes or army books or whatever you want to call them, they're not. There are some that are army specific, but there's also some that are theater specific.
Yep.
Right. So, like the Africa book, and I think they still do this because I haven't really gotten into the game since first edition, I think. But there was I was playing the African Germans.
Yeah.
So what that means is you get the AfriCorps book, and it has Rommel and all those guys and everything that he had for equipment down there, and you can pick and choose from that list.
Yeah. And it had the British 8th Army, and that's where I got my
Right.
stuff.
So that same book had British and Germans in it because it's that theater, and the idea is
U.S. in it too.
Now the game is still. Here's what makes the game non-historical. It's compatible. I can take my African German force, and I can totally legally play it against, Eastern European Russians.
Mid-war, and expect it to be a balanced
if it's mid-war Russians and mid-war Germans, even though I'm from the Africa book and he's from the Russian book,
Front,
Eastern Front book, they both fight, and it's totally fair, just like Eldar and Space Marines.
Yep.
But if I want to stay historical, I could also only play people who had who were in Africa.
If you're doing a campaign or something,
right? So that's sort of the interesting thing. It kind of reminded me a little bit of how Privateer Press, we talked about their business model where there'd be a book, and that book had all the expansions for all the armies for this section.
Right.
It's sort of like that, but it's not really like that because it has everything you need for that. It's sort of a hybrid solution. It's different than anybody else does it, which is sort of interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So what's different about it is it's one book we're talking about. So if you're like, oh, I want to play Germans and I want to play U.S., you buy and you want to play the African theater, you buy the book. It used to be called Africa back in your days, guys. It's now called North Africa. And in that book has Germans, British, U.S., and it might even, and I think it has Italians actually as well.
Yeah, it would.
So you guys you could buy one book and share it if you're sharing money, or you could buy two. You don't necessarily buy the German Force book, although they have those too. So that can be a little confusing.
That's the other thing people to think about too is gamers like variety. We talked about this before on the show, and so you think about like World War II. You think, well, there's two sides. Well, no, there's a lot more than two sides. But not only is there the Americans and the British and the Germans and the Russians, and later we talk about the Pacific on the interview, and the Italians, and then it could be the Japanese someday. Who knows? But not only are those, but it's even more granular than that. It's the Germans in Africa, or the Germans in Europe, or the or the British here, or the British in Australia. It's all kinds over the place, right? So
it's because the U.S. and Africa is not the same force that landed on D-Day.
Right. So there's different German armies you can play, which is sort of interesting, and what you have access to is totally different. So there's really multiple armies you can collect. And if you wanted to collect all the Germans, you'd have to get different theater books, right, or region books to do that. So it's
that's right, and that's one of the historical things that I enjoy is that I'm like, like for example, I didn't know that Big Red 1 started out in Africa. I had no idea. I thought they started out in, D-Day.
No,
right.
And so that's how you can learn, and you can be like, oh, I didn't know that, and that kind of thing, and that's one of the things I really enjoy. So I just want, for those of you that are new out there and you go check it out, just I didn't want to get confused with the book there. Now, Craig, explain how the other thing that I think is very common, like I remember Josh played the Finnish, which there's no war book on that, and you played the Maori. Explain how a lot of people will research a true real-life force that fought in World War II and how they find a compatible book.
The way I did it was I wanted to play a unit that I didn't think anybody else was going to have, and there was a little blurb in the North Africa book about the Maori, the New Zealand natives that made up their own battalion.
Right.
And I was really intrigued and interested, and so I went online and I found somebody from the battalion in World War II wrote a book about everything that happened and tracked the battalion's actions throughout World War II. So I found that book online, downloaded it, read the whole book, got really excited, and you could build basically that army out of the British forces in that first book.
Right.
And I was really excited, and I think Josh's was actually based on something that they did on a website or something.
No. Yeah, exactly.
Where they they don't do that. I don't think they do that anymore. But the interesting thing was I built that Maori force like I've talked about a long time ago in other episodes, and then they came out with a force book that had the Maori force in it and didn't have a bunch of the stuff that I had. So I was apparently using a bunch of stuff the Maori never used, but
there you go.
It was fun.
But you enjoyed the research part of it.
I loved
another aspect of the
game.
game.
And if you think about it, if you're playing a game by a company and that company's not the biggest company in the world and doesn't have its own stable of writers and it doesn't have, all the multimedia presence that some of these companies have, it could stink and you're going to, go far afield to look for some inspiration. But if you're playing a World War II game, you've got millions of movies and books at your disposal.
Yeah.
And I just think that's a really nice element to it also.
And Russ, let's talk about the other side of the coin. So where Craig found inspiration to create, a real historical force out of the British force, tell the listeners how you feel about playing the Germans. So how you interface with that.
I chose the Germans. I chose North Africa when I made my list because I really like tanks. And of course, Rommel, he was famous for how he used his tanks, and
his name is Veklen.
He has great, which is actually an English name, by the way, for our listeners out there. It has a great tank commanding skills. So I wanted to play them, and I love them. My only challenge with the game, and we can get more of this when we sum up, is just that I'm a big role player when I play games, and so the problem that I have with historical games in general, it's not just Flames of War, is that the reality of the game, sometimes I get reminded of the reality of what we're doing, and it goes to me from, playing a fun game where it doesn't really matter to reliving where people actually died, and so
it's a little bit of a bump.
And there's also, there were political things going on at that time that were, there are motivations that I am replaying, and, it's a big difference. This really hit home when people started buying the dice with their army symbols on them and putting their faction symbols on stuff. And it's one thing to have, a Chaos logo on your army bag walking around town. It's a very different thing to have a German swastika on your bag walking around town.
Oh, come on. It had a palm tree attached to it.
Right. So like the dice logos, now they were good in Flames of War, that most of the dice and everything is branded with the German Iron Cross symbol.
The Iron Cross.
Not the swastika. And we know, true historians will tell me, not every German soldier was a member of the Nazi Party, all that. So we know that. But the fact of the matter is that is part of the challenge of playing the game. Now, if you just, mentally playing if you can get into the mindset, we're just recreating a battle here, and it's kind of cool to see the technology of the tanks, that's one thing. But because I get so mentally into the head of the models I'm playing, I like to sort of role play while I play. That's one of the things that keep me from quite ranking Flames of War in my head as high as Rafe does, is just that element of the game. Sure, I could play an American and have a blast with it, but everybody plays the Americans, and so everyone wants to be the good guys in this game, with some exceptions, because it's a hard game to play the bad guys in.
Because the bad guys were really
bad,
yeah.
Right? I mean,
yeah.
So that's part of the problem.
To make you feel better, Russ, I've had that same phenomenon playing my U.S. I think it was around Veterans Day, and I played a game, and I was kind of got bummed because I was like, I'm rolling dice and simulating this, and real people died, lots of them, as Craig said in Rapid Fire, and it can kind of bring you back and snap you out of your little fantasy reverie.
Well, you know what my analogy is? Saving Private Ryan is a fantastic film.
Right.
And I enjoy watching it. But sometimes you want to go to the movies and just see, Star Wars.
Or Starship Troopers.
Or Starship Troopers, right? You don't need that. And that's the thing. When I play Flames of War, it's almost like I'm in Private Ryan every time. And for me, my gaming, well, that's really cool in many ways, and there's awesomeness about that. There's also times where I want to game and just game, right? And that's my only challenge with historical games is that element.
But
of
enough
it,
about challenges with this game. Let's talk about the actual game itself.
Okay,
let's move on.
So we've done the intro. You know the size of the model. So what do? You walk up to the table. I'm playing Craig. You open up your rule book, and you're going to pick a mission. They're basic missions that any miniature gamers come across. Free-for-all, encounter, hold the line, fighting withdrawal, breakthrough, things like that. They're in the rule book. No big deal. This game's a little different. You do have an attacker and a defender. 40K does that too, right, Craig?
They used to. They don't really anymore.
Not anymore.
Well,
okay.
they do now with the planetary assault
Some of
stuff.
But yeah.
It's
the
in
thing
there,
that
but
is
it's
a little
not
different
common.
about the missions, though, is you read the deployment. There's not standard deployment. The type of deployment is described in the mission. So the example of that is that you roll a die, winner chooses the side and is the attacker. The attacker player starts by placing objective. And that's a little different than some games, too, because in part of this scenario, you're actually placing objectives.
Well, that's one of the things in Flames of War I really like. Isn't there always an objective?
There seems to be, yes.
Like, I think pretty much all the standard missions, there's no just kill each other.
No.
Right?
That's right.
So
and
there's
the objectives look cool, too. You can buy the objectives, and they're really neat looking.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And then the deployment style is the attacker player starts by placing a whole platoon, and we'll get into troop sizes later. And then you alternate deployment. You leave out your command team, so your HQ comes in later, and then the other side places platoons, and you alternate back and forth. Then you place your Reese platoons. That's a Flames of War turn. It stands for reconnaissance. 40K players think of those as scouts. You roll a die, and this is a cool mechanic that other games do use, although I can't think of them off the top of my head. Whoever is the first done deploying, i.e. you have less stands than the other person, you get a +1 to your die roll to determine who goes first.
Right.
Didn't War Master do that?
Other games do that too,
Yeah. Yep.
But I like that mechanic. Basically, it means if you have a low model count, you have an
Yeah.
advantage because you have more maneuverability, theoretically.
Right. And then there's a, in the scenario, it'll tell you the condition to win the game. Might be hold this farmhouse. You have to have a stand within 4 inches with nobody else around, something like that. And then there's also certain missions use a VP component. I haven't played a mission out of the book in 100 years. I've been doing all scenarios. Okay, so that's it. So you've picked your mission. You guys have any thoughts on that?
Nope.
All right, so how to use the rule book. Excellent table of contents. We already talked about that. Full color, great index, good tables. The rules are in italics. Lots of sidebars, lots of explanations. Don't let that dissuade you. Those aren't all rules. They're all to help you. Then, okay, we're deployed. I'm facing Craig. They have a nice chart. Here's the whole game. This is it. 4 steps. Starting step, movement step, shooting step, assault step. Now, of course, those 4 steps have about, 20 pages of rules each, it seems to be. There's also a section of during the starting step. That's where you're checking your morale, checking your company morale. Have you met the victory conditions? You reveal your ambushers. We haven't talked about planes yet, but you roll for air support. So to privateer players, this is your maintenance phase. If you have tanks that have been bogged down, hitting a bocage like we were doing the other day with Don, you re-roll to see if your tanks are reactivated.
Let me just back up the tank here for a second. The turns are not integrated, correct?
No, not integrated.
So you're going to go through all of these steps, and then I'm going to go through all these steps.
Yes, good point.
So it's not like, it is like 40K and War Machine in that respect. So
it's exactly
you're
like
gonna
that,
do
yes.
you're going to do your maintenance phase here. You're going to go through all the starting steps, check morale, check for planes, reinforcements coming in, any sort of statuses you have to check on, getting out of a bog or smoke going away. You check on all that stuff, and then you're done with your intro. Now you're going to start moving, right?
That's right.
Okay.
That's exactly right. So I'm facing Craig. I'm the attacker. I'm going to go first. The farmhouse is in the, let's say, left-hand side of the middle part of the table. I've got a platoon of U.S. infantry. Craig, should we talk about platoon size here or wait till another time?
A platoon is a group of units that all move together.
Right.
Okay.
So you got a whole bunch of your little stands, and how do I move them? And this is where it got, when I was preparing for the show, this is where it got tough. So now I'm going to move some guys. Well, I call it daisy chain. The rulebook does a great job of handling this, but so now we're moving. Well, now I have to know, well, how much does infantry move? What do I do if I'm moving across an open road? How do I cross that fence, then cross over the, the bocage, which is just a hedgerow? And then your unit in your army book, like the U.S., has a special rule where they can move at the double. So all of a sudden, a simple thing like moving might encompass different parts of the rule book, but it really handles it pretty well. My tip to people playing is you just go with what's intuitive. Because, in other words, if you're moving your guys, infantry, all basic infantry move 6 inches. That's the same for Germans, Russians, Italians, U.S. What you do is if you're hitting a hedgerow, rather than stop the game and look it up and go, what do? You go, that's probably difficult terrain. Something will happen here. You don't want to take the time to look it up. That's fine. Just keep playing. That's my advice.
But what do they have in there? There's actual rules for difficult terrain right in the book.
Yes, they have
You're just
actual
ignoring them.
rules for difficult terrain, which is infantry completely ignores them.
Right. So there's different kinds of terrain in the game. Different terrain affects different kinds of units differently.
Right.
Some terrain costs double movement. Is that right?
That's right. No, not for infantry.
So no terrain slows infantry down then?
No.
At
Unless
all?
there's some sort of special rule, like it might be a swamp.
Right.
And that'll be
certain
described
things,
in the scenario.
And then other things, I think, when tanks are involved, right, they don't actually slow down. They just make a bog check or something.
They have to make a bog check, which we're going to go into a movement.
So there's
example.
impacts.
Yeah.
So there's impacts from terrain. Let's put it that way. So you pick your platoon. You're going to move your platoon. All infantry moves at a flat speed of 6 inches.
Correct. Ignoring difficult terrain, they hop over fences, they scurry.
So your platoon might be like
posts.
six stands, right?
6 inches.
6 stands.
Six
Well, how many guys
stands.
are in it? 6 stands, maybe?
Like
7 stands? 10 stands?
In a platoon?
Yeah.
My platoons were 6 stands and a command stand.
So
No, my platoons are 9 stands and a bazooka and a company commander.
Okay, so your platoons, different stands, different weapons in the platoon. It's a whole platoon. There's a commander platoon. So everybody in the platoon is either going to move or stay still, right? And if one model in the platoon moves, the whole platoon's considered moving?
Correct.
No.
I don't think so.
Nope.
I can't remember.
That actually happened in the game on Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm fairly.
I'm thinking of transport. Sorry.
I'm fairly certain that, unlike other war games we're familiar with, that what's interesting about Flames of War is because if you think of a platoon as a unit, in 40K and in Privateer Press, you think of like 10 models. That's one unit of guys. Each model's one man. But in this game, it's a platoon's a unit essentially, but each stand is multiple guys, but they're all working together, right?
Each team operates independently,
right?
Inside the unit,
they have to maintain coherency, right?
Yeah,
to the platoon.
No, they don't even have to do that.
That's right. You can break them off. That's right.
It can make it challenging.
Right. So you can break them off. You can force them out. So you can move them out and do all that kind of stuff. But if they're out of command range of a commander, they can't get certain bonuses and stuff, right?
Sort of. What happens is, so what we're talking about is, this is exactly what we mean about daisy chain. So you've got this platoon and 9 guys. And you're like, I want to try this covering fire thing. I want to move half of my platoon, so 5 stands up to the objective, but I want to keep the second half back. You can do that in this game.
Right.
Doesn't affect
So you don't
movement.
need a daisy
Then you get
chain
all this terrain. Infantry moves right through it. Hut, 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 hut.
Right.
They move their 6. The guys in back don't move their 6. They're out of command now. How do you determine command? Guess what? That's a different part of the rule book. We'll get to that in a minute. Then what happens is the next turn, those other guys, the only way they can move is towards the platoon commander.
Right. But they can
that's
still
really cool
they can
because they
still
get to do the you get to do that cover firing type of thing.
So they can still shoot anybody
Yes.
they want. The only
They don't take morale checks. They don't take break checks for being out of command.
but
nothing
but
like
being
that at
out of
all.
command is if they're out of command and they have to make a break check, they're in bad shape, right?
Yes. If they're out of command and for you get shot at, then that affects it because your platoon commander's dead.
So let me see if I can simplify this whole complicated thing for you.
Yes.
So basically, when you're going to move your infantry, they all move 6 inches. There's a platoon unit. You're going to move a whole platoon at a time. They can go any direction they want. You want to keep track of who's moved and who hasn't because they have different stats when they do that. You can leave guys behind. You can keep them together. You don't have to worry about coherency, except that if you're out of coherency, you got to worry about your next move is going to be restricted, and you may or may not have increased trouble if you have to make a morale check.
Correct.
Right. Boom. There's movement for
Boom.
infantry, right?
Then, to add a little more juice to that, you can move your guys at the double. So all infantry can take their guys. They have a 6-inch move. You can say, I'm moving them at the double, and they can move 12 inches. Hut, 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 hut. They hut across the field. The main thing that you remember when you're moving your guys at the double is the theory is you're opening yourself up. You're not hiding. You're not taking advantage of cover. So any shots at you are double at the rate of fire.
Right.
We haven't gotten to shooting yet, but a machine gun in this game throws 3 dice. And, if you're facing 5 hash tracks, each with 2 machine guns, you do the math, you might be facing 30 dice.
Yeah, the takeaway here is just if you move faster in this game, what's interesting is you also lose the ability to shoot if you're on a double, right?
Yep.
So you can't shoot, but in addition to that,
you lose the ability to do anything else.
That's right. You can't assault either.
Yes, and you're also more susceptible to taking damage from enemy fire.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, so that's an important
It
thing.
gives you another tactical option, but there's a cost.
And basically, my experience in the game, and I don't know if it's changed any, but moving at the double, you better make darn sure you're not going to get shot next turn because you're pretty much going to get destroyed.
Right.
But a nice little subtlety to this is if you're misdeployed, because remember, we shrunk the scale down of these troops.
Right.
If you're misdeployed or your opponent does something you don't expect, like take his tanks and just sweep way far to the right and your infantry, you can get to where you need to go by moving at the double.
Right.
Which is a really fun mechanic, I think.
But it's the only game, I think, major war game that does have the thing if you move the double, you have an increased chance of getting hurt.
Yeah.
I think 40K you can run, but you don't have an increased chance of getting hurt.
Right.
And same with Privateer.
That's a great segue, Russ, to how it's sort of opposite thinking, because now I want to talk about how the command and control works and get into how the conscripts have one ranking and trained has another ranking and veteran has another ranking, because then I want to get to shooting, which is different than what people expect it to be. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay.
Are we done with movement then?
Yeah, I'm pretty much done with movement. Okay. I mean, tanks are a whole nother... See, that's what's interesting is that in the movement section, you're like, well, I want to move my infantry. I wasn't going into this depth. But let's talk about tanks, because you're a treadhead and tanks are fun. There's rules on how to move tanks. There's rules on how to move man-packed guns. There's rules if your guns are towed. So all those rules are in there. I know, Craig, you used to tow your guns around a lot, I think. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Never.
Well,
Not unless
one
you
of the things-
misdeploy them.
Yeah, one of the things I thought was interesting about the game is I liked how tank movement worked, and I liked the bog check thing. And vehicles can move with the
Now,
double also, right?
What's a bog check? It's very simple.
If your tank goes into kind of rough terrain, right?
Yep.
You got to make a die roll.
Single die roll.
And what happens?
It's a skill check. So
check.
every one of your units has two traits. They have their motivation and their skill ability.
Yeah.
So that's either like confident trained, for
Mhm.
instance, and those two things are going to dictate all of your skill abilities and your morale.
Yeah, there's no big long line of stats on a guy.
No. There's no ballistic skill. There's no weapon skill. There's no defense.
Right. None of that.
There's no agility. You're not dodging bullets like
it's
that.
all those two traits.
Right.
And so your skill, say, is a 3+ if you're a veteran, I believe, and that means you hit the. I think it might be only on a 1, a bog check.
Maybe I can't remember.
I think a bog check you only.
Anyway, there's a die roll. If you go badly, you get stuck.
And your vehicle gets stuck.
Otherwise, you
Exactly.
blast right through it.
Yep.
And there's modifiers. Some vehicles have,
Yeah.
rough terrain
Exactly.
modifiers.
You know what it is, Craig? The reason why you're thinking about it is it depends on the scenario. So if the scenario is using the basic rules from the book, when you're crossing that hedgerow, you bog on a 1.
Right.
But like with the rules that Don and I were using for the campaign,
Right.
it said in the rules, which is a Flames of War campaign, it said you use a skill check in order to cross it.
Because the bocage is much thicker.
It was like extra thick.
Yeah.
So we've done all of our movement now. So we can move our men.
So you have
move
your
our
tank,
tanks.
You want to cross the hedgerow. You make a roll. Let's say the rule says on a 1 you bog.
Mhm.
What does that mean? It means the tank stops dead where it is. It can still shoot. It's not destroyed. And that goes back to the maintenance phase, the starting step at the beginning of your next turn. You would make a skill check, which we'll get to. And if you roll, your guys unbog the vehicle and you can keep on moving.
Now, one of the things I thought was interesting is because I believe transports can also move the double, right? And so can tanks.
Yes.
But again, if you do that, you are really opening yourself up to enemy fire. And the other thing I thought was interesting is transports themselves are very interesting in this game because your guys can get in the transport and go, but you want to get out of those transports as soon as humanly possible, right? Because if you take fire while you're in a transport, you're pretty much in trouble.
Yeah, let's cover that in the shooting step, but you're exactly right. And that's where, Craig, I was getting confused because I would run an armored infantry company. What's that? I have my platoon of guys, and they all come with a half track.
Right.
And what I would always want to do was have my guys sort of duck into cover. We'll talk about that. And then move my half tracks to use the machine guns.
Yeah.
And those are transports. And the minute you do that, your platoon is considered moving and you don't get the cover bonus.
One of the big criticisms of people who are more familiar with how real war works of 40K, or at least the older editions of 40K, was the idea that you could rhino rush, you send your transports and just dump out and get. Well, in real war, that doesn't happen because when you get out of your vehicle, you are so vulnerable to fire. You would never just pull up in front of the enemy and jump out right into their face.
Well, that's been addressed.
No, but I know. It's better now. It's better now.
Yep.
But in Flames of War, it's not even 40K now. It's easier to do than Flames of War. You don't want to be in those transports anywhere near the enemy because pretty much.
And let's
you're
not
done.
hide the ball. The reason for that is in the game, everybody knows what a rule save is. An infantry gets a 3+ save. Even against a huge tank gun. It has nothing to do with the weapon shooting you. Again, an opposite thing from 40K. 40K, like glass cannon, if I get hit, I'm going to die. No save. Nope, not in this game. The theory is an infantry soldier is actually very difficult to hit. You actually don't kill an infantry soldier in real life with a tank gun. You can, but you shoot a machine gun at it, and that's the reason for that. So he gets a 3+ save. If he's in a transport, he gets a transport save, which is a 5+. You might be losing your infantry at a 5+.
Right.
The theory being they're trapped into a truck when the artillery shell hits it.
Well, imagine those movies of World War II where the guys are on those back of those giant trucks.
They always blow up. The back
you don't
of
want
those
to be in
trucks
that thing.
always blow up.
You don't want to be in that thing.
I don't know what they're keeping in the back of those trucks, but they always blow
So you don't
up.
want to be in an unarmored vehicle. Run around. So anyway, that's movement, right? So let's get on to what's
That's
next.
movement. All right, we're going to skim this next section, but it's important because it's a little different. There's no, like we said, ballistic skill, weapon skill. What there is, there's 3 levels that your guys can be. Conscripts, trained, and veterans. That's their skill level. That skill level can be used for a variety of things. It might be for digging slitty trenches. It might be for going over bocages for tanks. It'll tell you in either the rule book or the mission. So and it'll also tell you your coherency that your troops can be in. So, for example, a conscript for tanks, 4-inch coherency. For trained, 6-inch coherency. And for veteran, 8-inch coherency. That's the same if you're a U.S. veteran, a German veteran, or an Italian veteran. Make sense so far?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the better trained you are, the more you can spread out.
The Germans, typically, you'll hear us talk about it. They are considered veterans due to their timing of the war. In the U.S., when they come in, they're considered trained. And I think the British are trained, too.
That does
right?
change depending on what war area you're playing in.
They do. They
Just
absolutely
like
do.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So in our little scenario, I'm going against Craig. I've moved my platoon. They hutted right through the bocage. No problem. My tanks went through. Up, one bogged. Okay. Now I'm ready to shoot. As Russ pointed out, it's still my turn. I'm going to shoot. All right. There's a lot going on. We got buildings in the way. We got other tanks in the way. I can only see half of a platoon. I've got mortars inside my infantry squad. I want to split fire. What if Craig's partially in the woods? So I'm not going to cover each of that in detail. The book does a good job of doing that. For those of you keeping notes at home, that's page 57. There's a nice summary. But here's something that's very different.
What are we, the Games Workshop podcast?
That's right.
Now flip to page 57.
Flip to page 57 and follow along with us in the car while you're driving.
How'd that work
That's
out
right.
for them?
Yeah, don't take your eyes off the road.
No.
All
So
right.
so basically what's going to happen here, right, is there's a lot of supplemental rules to shooting, but the basic fundamental situation here is that I'm going to examine your skill when I am shooting you.
Right.
Yes.
All infantry, all firers are presumed to be reasonably trained so they can operate a weapon well. The chance of me hitting a target is not really related to my skill so much in this game designer's theory. Don't send me emails. But more it's related to how well your target is good at hiding and not being seen, as Monty Python would say.
Exactly.
So the higher the training, the veteran status, is the veteran status of your opponent, the more difficult it is for you to hit him.
Yep.
So what this ends up being is that Russians, for example, are conscripts, right? Because Russia was very famous for its drafting who would stand still long enough and be thrown at the enemy.
Yeah.
So shooting Russians, charging you in a giant wave, untrained, is easy. But shooting a bunch of advanced...
It's a 2+.
Right, but to shoot a Russian, for an American infantryman to shoot a Russian platoon charging at him, it's 2+ to hit those guys. But for the same American infantryman to shoot Germans advancing on him is now what, a 4+ or a 5+?
Correct, 4+.
Because the Germans are better trained. So so all you really need to know to shoot your opponent, you have to say what's your armor stat or anything else. It's just what's your training level for your unit, right?
Yeah,
and
and historical gamers will get this in a heartbeat because this is how a lot of historical games work.
Right.
40K players, it's really difficult. Like, all right, my ballista skill minus a 7. No, that's not it.
Right.
So exactly like Russ described. So let's turn Craig from a British into a German. He's hiding in the woods.
Jawohl.
What's that?
Nothing.
Keep going.
He's hiding in the woods. So it's just like regular miniature warplay. I take my United States Rifle Company, and I go, okay, I take my tape measure, and pre-measuring is allowed in this game, which is a really neat thing.
I like that.
And I measure it out, and he's within 16 inches of me. So I go, okay, he's a German. That's a 4+. How do I know that? There's a chart that says it because Germans are veterans.
Yep.
I apply any modifiers that may affect. He's in the woods. He's concealed. That's a +1.
Yep.
Let's say he did this thing called Gone to Ground, which in this scenario that we're playing out, he didn't do yet because it wasn't his first turn. So we'll talk about Gone to Ground at the end. These all add up. So now I'm hitting him at a 5+. What do? I take my amount of infantry teams. You add them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You throw the dice. And as many 5+ as I get, his teams get hit.
Does each infantry stand get only 1 die?
Depends
Each
on the
infantry
weapons
strand
they
only
have.
gets 1 die.
It depends on what weapons they have.
That's what I thought.
Right.
So
I just said rifle squads.
Okay, so it does depend on their weapon, right? So
it does. So my mortar team, nope, I'm not talking about that dice. My bazooka team, not talking about that dice. And my light machine gun, I'm not talking about that dice.
Right.
Okay.
And because those dice are also affected by whether you move or not.
Right.
Correct.
Some units have submachine guns in certain ranges they can fire more and things like that.
Right.
There's a lot of variation that we're missing here.
So there's weapon stats on each stand in your unit.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, and we're going to get that. So let's just talk about the rifle teams for now.
So just to give a very basic on the mechanics, all you're going to do is the stats of the weapons you're firing is going to give you some number of dice per stand you roll.
Yes.
You can add all those together, right? So you can add your submachine guns in with your regular rifles, right?
Most of the time, Russ, I think what you're thinking of is oftentimes the German rifle teams aren't even rifle teams; they're submachine gun teams.
Right.
So when my rifle team, which may be armed in the real world with the M1 Garand rifle or the Browning rifle, that's not depicted on the stand. You don't have to say, "Oh, that's a Garand and that's a rifle." I roll as the U.S. and I think Craig does as the British, 1 dice per stand for a rifle team.
For a rifle team, yes.
Okay. For the Germans, what you're probably used to is your rifle teams are really SMG teams.
Right.
Each of those little buggers have little machine guns. I believe the Germans roll 3 dice per stand.
If they don't move.
If they
don't move.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So basically what happens is I can roll. I'm not trying to distinguish between the armies. I'm just saying is that there's a stat for your based on the weapons your guys are carrying, how many dice per stand you roll, and you can add all those dice together from the stands. It doesn't really matter as long as they're all guns. It doesn't matter that 2 stands of submachine guns and 1 gun's got a rifle.
Because the to hit roll is that skill level plus all those modifiers.
So I pool my dice pool together based on the weapons I'm carrying and whether or not I moved. I roll all those, and the numbers I'm looking for is based on your veteran status plus any cover modifiers or any other ancillary modifiers in the game.
Correct.
So bam. So looking for my successes. I get, let's say, I fire at you, or Craig fires at you, and he gets 4 successes.
No, I'm firing at Craig, and he's a German now.
Okay. So
you
fire
I roll 15 dice. I've added up my bazooka. I've added up my submachine gun. I've added it all up. I've applied all the appropriate modifiers, and I get 7 hits.
Okay.
All right. What does Craig do?
I roll my armor saves, my infantry save, which is a 3+.
Correct. Do you get an extra save, a cover save for being in cover?
No, because that's already factored into how easy or difficult it is to hit me.
Right.
Exactly. That's exactly
So all
right.
you do is you just make a flat-up infantry save, and that's just there because, and that actually is interesting because vehicles don't get that save.
No.
This is an infantry thing, which is why you don't want to be in a vehicle when you're an infantry guy. So it makes the infantry hard to kill, gives them some resilience, and it actually gives you a nice feel for, because
it's not easy to hit a bunch of guys that are on their
that's right. And you might
bellies
think,
in the
you
dirt.
might think, why is the thing in armor got no save, but the guy that's standing there in a suit, well, he's got a save because he's probably prone, behind a bush, spread out a little bit.
Exactly.
So you need to throw lots of amount of fire.
And you're not talking about armor. You're talking about like a truck.
Right.
Because armor a tank will have a save. And
a tank actually gets, you have to armor pen it.
Right, it's different. It does it get a save or does it get an armor pen?
It gets an armor pen and then it gets a firepower test.
Yeah.
Right.
I roll to try to match my armor.
Right.
And if I do that, it doesn't matter. Right. If I don't do that, you then have to make a firepower test to see if you destroy the tank, do nothing to the tank, or force the crew to leave the tank temporarily.
Right. So the infantry, we'll do tanks in a second. So the infantry gets that. So you roll that. So I roll.
So
I don't roll the wound.
I did 7 hits on you. Roll your saves. How many saves did you get?
5 out of the 7.
He does 5. He takes away 2 whole stands.
Yes, and they're just gone.
And they're just gone.
Save is a whole stand gone.
However, because you hit me 7 times, I'm now pinned.
Yes. That's how pinning works. Pinning does not work by wounds. It
or
works
a die
by
roll.
hits.
It's just
how many hits do you need to get a pin?
5.
5. So what's cool about that is even if what I like, this is what my favorite part about the game is. One of my favorite parts of the game is that even though it's frustrating and you're not actually killing anybody because he makes all his freaking saves all the time,
it still has a suppression.
You can still
effect.
pin the guy if you throw enough guns at him, and pinning is huge. Why, Rafe? What does pinning do to you?
Pinning does 2 things to you. It drops your rate of fire, so now your German SMGs, you're only shooting 1 back.
Right.
Because you're not as effective.
It prevents you from assaulting me.
Right. So I can't charge you
until you unpin.
Right.
Until you unpin.
You can try to unpin at the beginning
which
of your
is
turn,
another, which is another skill test.
Right. So again, you're forcing these guys to get pinned. You can only pin once. You can't like stack pinning up.
Correct.
But basically you can. So you want to. One of your big things is suppressing the enemy, reducing his movement, and keeping those things going on. So
right.
So
now
I like that part of the game.
Same
Suppression's in the
scenario.
game. Yep.
Craig got to go the turn before. He did this thing with his same guys. I've got my platoons moving up, and he didn't shoot in the turn before, and he didn't move, and he's in cover. Do you see where I'm guys going there?
No.
Okay. If you don't move in this game, you're considered to have gone to ground. Right? If you don't move and you don't shoot, right,
Which
Craig?
is a further +1.
Which is a further +1, making it more difficult to hit.
More difficult to hit.
Right.
So now he's a German. He's a 4+ to hit because of the book. He's a 5+ because he's in terrain. He didn't move, and he's
Or
gone
shoot.
ground, and then it's a 6+.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there are some neat things you can do. We don't have to get into every single one, but there are neat things you can do to make it harder for your opponent to hit you, even being in the open. So even if you're in the middle of the table, and it looks like you could be easily shot.
You can dig foxholes.
You can dig in. You can go to ground. You can make it very difficult for the enemy to kill you. So it actually becomes very difficult and challenging to route infantry in this game. You can't just mow them. It's not like 40K where you just shoot and things die. You really have to.
Well, that does happen.
Well,
but there are lots of options
but it
for
takes
you to
a lot
try
of.
to...
You can't go in. Well, that's what flamethrowers are for. Some other things.
Yeah.
But that's why you need different weapons. But basic machine guns on infantry takes a bit of work.
Yep.
And the only thing I want to add to this scenario, because again, I said I was going to go into shooting in detail, is the last thing Craig can do. It's his turn. He can decide to dig a trench. So it's like being in a bunker. He gets bulletproof cover if he passes his skill test, which for a German is a 3+. So for the whole platoon, he rolls a die, 3+. His guys, they're not gone to ground because they moved and digging the trenches, but that can happen next turn, and you get the further +1, but now he's in bulletproof cover. And so for early players of the game, you might be like, well, this is dumb. If he's a German, if he's in the woods, he's gone to ground. So he's concealed, he's gone to ground, and he's in bulletproof cover. How the heck am I supposed to kill him? And that's where you start to do the rock, paper, scissors thing. You go back to your army book, you're like, oh, I get it. My artillery can come in and bomb this position and basically break the bulletproof cover.
Why is it so hard to kill them out of bulletproof cover?
Well, number one, if let's assume they're concealed, so now you got to hit them on a 5+. Then he makes his infantry save. So in this scenario, he rolled 5. He lost 2 guys. I now have to make what's called a firepower test to make sure that, did he die, but was he covered by being in a foxhole?
Right.
And on a regular rifle, the fire plus test is a 6+. Right. I got to roll 2 6+s or he lives.
Every weapon has a firepower stat line, right?
Right.
And on most machine guns, it's 6.
Correct.
So you basically only have a 1 in 6 chance. After he's already made his 3+ save.
Correct.
You then only have a 1 in 6 chance of actually killing him once he's dug in.
Yeah.
Correct. Now, of course, my bazooka has, I think, a 4+ firepower test, but that's only one stand. That's only one die.
But the problem is with the bazooka is he still gets his 3+ save against the bazooka.
That's correct.
But you'll probably blow through his little sandbag pit.
That's correct.
So that's where you need large AoE affecting things that reduce
area of effect.
Save, right? And that's where artillery comes in and other game elements, right?
Yep.
In addition to assaults. Assaults also are nice because they get you out of that too. But
yep.
Great.
So the only thing I wanted to add to this is just to talk about tanks a little bit. But is there anything you guys want to talk about how the basics of moving, shooting, and I know we kind of skimmed and jumped all around, but that is the daisy chaining effect of this game with the rules, you know?
I still don't get the daisy chain thing, but I think we've covered moving and shooting at least 3 times each.
The only thing I want to ask about, because I think we haven't talked about this yet, and the game is very vehicle-based, is how does shooting at a vehicle work?
Shooting at a vehicle?
Yeah, so I'm shooting. So let's say I fire my Panzerfaust at your Sherman tank.
And tell everybody what a Panzerfaust is.
It's basically the German version of a bazooka, right?
Right. Craig, do you want to do this or you want me to do it?
So what happens?
You go ahead and do it.
I roll to hit you like I'm shooting an infantry. I look at your right. Is that right?
Yes, you roll
so
based on that.
So I look at the stat of the tank.
Yes. Which for United States is 4+.
Okay, so I'm going to roll what I need to roll on that, so I hit you. Okay.
Well, first you got to check your weapons range.
Right. So you're in
range. All that stuff is a given.
Let's assume I have range and line of sight.
Yeah, you got range and line of sight.
Okay, right. So I'm going to roll to hit you with my Panzerfaust. So I fire the weapon. It gets 1 die of attack rolls, let's say.
Correct.
Or maybe it does 2, but let's just say it's 1 for now.
I roll it.
I roll a 4. I hit your tank.
Yep.
What happens next?
All right. So let's say I'm driving a Stuart. And I don't have the book in front of me right now, but I want to say the Stuart's front armor, depending on the time of war, let's say it's a 6.
Right.
For the front armor.
Right. So it's different already, because normally now at this point, the infantry guy would make his infantry save.
And then would be done.
Right. So I could fire my Panzerfaust at your infantry stand. It'd be 1 die. Your guy would get a 3+ save and probably make it. So shooting an infantry unit with a Panzerfaust is not very handy.
Correct.
But if I shot you with a 3 dice machine gun that's standing next to the Panzerfaust guy, that would get 3 armor saves with force. And that might kill you.
Right.
But if I fire the same Panzerfaust now at your tank and hit it on a 4+, your tank doesn't get the infantry save. That's what I was trying to say earlier. It doesn't get that 3+ automatic save no matter what the weapon is.
Correct.
There's no tank save.
Right. There's no vehicle saves. Well, there's infantry transport saves, but they're crappy. So the tank has to penetrate his front armor. So how does this work?
Okay. So then what you got to do is you got to look up the anti-tank rating of your Panzerfaust.
Right.
So do you have a remembrance of what
No
that
idea.
is?
Pick a number.
All right. Well, I'm trying to think.
Well,
Craig,
what's the
bazooka?
mechanics?
Like I think a bazooka is like a 10 plus.
We just
Let's
need to
say
know.
it's a 10 and your tank is a 6. What do you need to do to save from that Panzerfaust shot?
Perfect. So his Panzerfaust a 10, my front armor's a 6. I pick up a 6-sided die. I roll the die. If I roll a 3 or below,
if you if you match the number you're looking for,
How do I know what number I'm looking for?
The anti-tank.
So the anti-tank's an 8, and my front armor is a...
no, wait, I'm confused. The rating on the weapon is a 10.
10,
Your
sorry.
front armor is a 6. Neither of those sound like dice numbers I'm trying to roll, because a 10 is too high to roll on a 6-sided die.
You're rolling a d6 and you're adding it to your armor of your vehicle.
Oh, that's what I was missing. So there's a formula involved.
Exactly.
So I'm going to take the armor of my tank.
Yep.
Plus the number I roll on the dice.
If you match the anti-tank value of the weapon,
That's what we want to know.
the crew bails out, but the tank is not damaged.
Okay.
If
Correct.
you beat the armor, if you're lower than it, then you're destroyed.
So if his die roll, if 6 plus his die roll is greater than 10, my weapon's armor pen,
Then
nothing
you're
happens.
fine.
It bounced off the tank.
Yep.
If he equals my 10,
then you're bailed
he's
out.
bailed out, which is sort of like mentally broken. They
Yeah.
they pop out of the
Your
tank.
crew
from
is like
regroup.
hiding behind the
stunned and stuff.
Right. If he fails below a 10,
then your
now bad
tank is
things happen.
destroyed.
Well, not automatically. Isn't there a firepower?
Oh, no,
test?
the firepower test. You're
so
right. Yep.
so now the tank's potentially in trouble.
Yeah.
So now I make a firepower check, which is another stat
If
for
you're
my
the shooter,
weapon,
yeah, 'cause
with
it's
my
a
with my weapon, 'cause
Panzerfaust,
the Panzerfaust is firing. So a Panzerfaust has got a firepower check,
which is
4 plus.
Okay, so I roll a d6. If I don't roll, if I fail the check,
Yep.
the tank bails
It's
out.
still bailed.
Still
It's
bailed.
bailed.
But if I achieve my test, now it's destroyed.
Yes.
Right.
If you beat the number.
Right.
I failed.
So that's how that works. And so a machine gun could actually kill a tank. The
Very
problem is
unlikely.
it's not really likely going to happen because the machine gun's armor penetration rating or whatever it is not high enough. It's so low that it probably wouldn't do it.
Right.
And even if it did, the firepower check involved you need to roll a 6 on a d6. So it's very long odds.
Correct.
But we should say there are different armor values on the different angles of the tank, right?
Right.
So getting behind
Correct.
the tank, you have better chances than in front in most vehicles.
Yeah.
And that's where your stats are, because you have armored vehicles, armored car, Sherman tanks, Stuart tanks, different years of tanks.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Yep. So so the big difference I just want to do vehicles real quick because it's very different combat mechanics
But
against
a
the
huge
vehicle.
part of the game.
But a huge part of the game than it is against infantry. What's interesting is that when infantry digs in, they sort of become a mini vehicle, giving that
Yeah.
armor penetration rule.
Right.
That's
Yep.
what happens.
Yep.
Oh, it all ties together.
It all ties together.
It all ties together. Yep. And there's all sorts of cool things with the tanks. And, since we're still in the shooting section, you have your main gun. There's rules on what you do if you have your main gun, a hull-mounted machine gun, and a turret gun, and an AA gun. We're not going to get into that. There's flamethrowers in the game. You do have anti-aircraft guns if planes are coming over. You have, just like you see in the movie, those big howitzers that are angled up and go, thump. That's artillery. You've got snipers. I mean, they've got it all. Anything you could think of in World War II, they have. Let's cover all that in the next episode.
Right, because
Sounds
Flames of
good.
War is so big.
It is
so expansive.
It is a vast game, almost as if the entire world were at war.
Almost.
Yes.
Almost like that.
Almost.
So more on planes, artillery, and the mechanics of assaulting.
And Reese or Wreck or Reek or whatever you want to call it.
And our
That's right.
eagerly anticipated ratings in episode 46.
46. This, did you ever notice, is brought to you by Craig. Yes, to Craig from Squid Eye and the Bitter Guy. Having risen to your challenge, we request an impression, but not Walken this time. Oh no, this time we want Shatner. Gone! Did you ever notice that when you're in the biggest rush of your life, the rest of the world seems to slow down and lose all sense of urgency whatsoever? I mean, let's say you left the house a little late. For instance, let's say you're trying to put together, some resin spaceships or something. And let's say you're supposed to go out and get a really important book for your wife and be back by the time she returns from a little outing of her own, let's say by 9:30. Well, let's say you lost track of time. Perfectly reasonable event if you're working with resin trying to dry it from the wash so you can prime it and accidentally spray it with WD-40 oil instead of a pressurized duster. Well, anyway, let's just say you're running late. So you sprint from the house at 9 o'clock. Shop's about 10 minutes away, barring traffic. Give yourself 5 minutes to rush in, find the book, buy it, and rush out. 10 minutes return trip. You're golden. You got 5 minutes to spare. And this is where the universe starts to chuckle behind you with a low and menacing tone. You rush in, find the book, you're about 30 seconds ahead of schedule. Things are going fine, you're not paying too much attention to the hippies in the corner throwing a concert for 2 of their closest friends with chairs set up in case 20 more show up. Typical amateur hippie voices and musical selection, the answer my friend is blowing in the wind and all. But what does that matter to you, right? There are 2 cashiers working, only 2 people ahead of you in line, and you should be golden. And that's when the woman ahead of you, her head bobbing to the slightly dissonant music, refuses to move forward in line. The nice young man behind the register doesn't want to shout louder and disturb the 2 music lovers, now 3 apparently, so he keeps saying, "Next, please," in a tone perhaps just a half a decimal below what this lady and her mother and her daughter, I think, can apparently hear. You're getting antsy now as you see your carefully crafted timetable start to drift apart. You're about to maybe nudge the lady, gently of course, when the cashier finally gets up the nerve to come down the row of registers slowly and gently breaks into the woman's musical reverie. Now, you should be good to go. The guy at the other register's been there for a while, and he should be just about done. And how long can this music lover take? Really, she's only got 1 hardcover book in her hand. Never underestimate the lack of urgency of people around you when you're running out of time yourself. Apparently, the connoisseur of fine amateur music is trying to find out if there's a paperback version of the book. Oh, it's going to be available soon? How soon? Before Christmas? No? How long after Christmas? Now she turns to her mother. Do you think I could give her a note saying this was the book and I'll get it to you soon? Well, that depends. How close are you? Seriously. Meanwhile, the gentleman at the other counter is apparently trying to order enough copies of a single book that, should he strap them all to the bottom of his back deck at home, they will provide enough buoyancy to save him should God prove to have been joking about that promise never to inundate the earth again. At this point, I believe you would be perfectly justified if you started to twitch. Seriously, the option of maybe giving the lady the difference between the paperback and the hardcover, and coincidentally saving her a vast store of embarrassment later on in the season, begins to creep into your head. But eventually she opts not to buy the book, save her money for now, and give the note about buying a paperback later in the season. You shift your weight, ready to jump out of the starting blocks as soon as the cashier gives you the nod. You are by far later than you want to be, and only hope now is sailing through the checkout and maybe breaking a couple land speed records between you and home. But no. The lady now would like to chat with the cashier about the musical duo. At this time, of course, there's a huge line piled up behind you. Everyone is starting to twitch, but this nice lady would like to chat with the nice young man about the lovely singers who have now broken into a fine, if moderately flat, rendition of the Indigo Girls' song, Closer to Fine. You know the one. The best thing you've ever done for me is to help me take my life less seriously. It's only life after all. Seriously. Anyway. Soon the cashier, realizing that he is about to have a mutiny on his hands, smiles kindly at the music fan, gestures to the line of grumpy and apparently tone-deaf people behind her, and shrugs apologetically. She looks back with a big smile, waves, if you can believe it, shakes her head at the cashier, and she and her entourage move on. Moments later, you are the recipient of exactly the same apologetic shrug and smile. Anything else, sir? Would you like to be a member of our club? Pay us $50 a year and get 10% off savings of occasional purchases? All right, sir. Thank you very much. Happy holidays. Man. Needless to say, I didn't make it home in time. I did have the book, however, and had obviously made a good faith effort to have everything done on time, so no harm, no foul. But seriously? Chatting randomly with a stranger who needs to get on with his job while a whole bunch of irate people are standing there watching you stall their lives for 4 or 5 minutes? If we could clone that woman and train the clones to use guns, we'd be able to take over the world. And that's not the only time recently my finely crafted timetables have been thrown askew by other people's seasonal lack of urgency. Twice recently I've tried to buy something at the game store that's a little closer to me than Myriad, unfortunately a contributing factor when you're trying to jam-pack as many events into a day as I do, and twice I've been stymied because there was no one there to take my money. There was this one time just this week when I tried to buy something at a store and was told that they'd closed the registers a little early, so they couldn't take my money. What? So here's the deal, folks. It's the Christmas, Hanukkah, season. A whole bunch of people are in a hurry. Be aware of that. If you're a cashier, don't shoot the BS with a customer when there are a bunch of other people who want to be customers behind him. And if you're a customer, have the consideration to not try to start a conversation that will stop the rest of the world from turning. Seriously, what do you expect the rest of us to do? Leave our houses on time? Be less stressful? Try to avoid being in a constant rush? Budget our schedules with a little more care so we're not rushing around like madmen and more capable to enjoy the positive elements of the season? Who do you think we are, Supermen? It's possible the point of this "did you ever notice" might just be different than my planned point. I mean, this might all be my fault, right? If I gave myself a little more time, maybe I wouldn't be quite so annoyed at some of the stuff. I mean, it wouldn't have made the folksy duo any better, and it wouldn't make it easier to find attendants who would be willing to take my money, but maybe that lady with the paperback hardcover issue wouldn't have been so annoying if I had put down the spaceships a little sooner. Maybe, if we all take a little more time, this whole season would be a whole lot less stressful. Maybe, if we all think a bit about what we're trying to accomplish and what everyone else is trying to accomplish at the same time, maybe we'd all be better off, happier, and more able to enjoy the season. Those of us inclined to enjoy the season, of course. Maybe the answer is blowing in the wind. Maybe we should take our lives less seriously. Or maybe, just maybe, you should all get the hell out of my way when I'm trying to buy Christmas presents. I'm sure the truth is in there somewhere, probably in the middle. Well, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, enjoy the season if you're so inclined, and thanks for listening. Good night.
Achievement unlocked! You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by either emailing us at info@thed6generation.com or by posting in our official D6G episode thread at the top of the DACA discussions forum on DACA.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. See you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.
The theme from Total Fangirl comes from the soundtrack of The Last Night on Earth, the zombie game, courtesy of Flying Frog Productions, and is a composition of Mary Beth Magalanes.
And is going to bring on a D6 to roll. Any minute now he's going to be back. And when he returns, he's going to roll a D6 that he gets from any game at all. Really doesn't matter. He will then roll the D6, and we will pick a winner from this list. Any D6 at all, Craig, anytime.
I'm trying to find my D6 roller on my iPod.
There's a wooden one on top of the cabinet. Any moment now. Any moment. Any moment now. Craig's going to return.
I must have thrown that app out.
Do you have one in your iPhone?
No, I threw it out.
All right.
I have iPodger in my iPhone.